Hello and welcome to Unsourced. Well, my name is Elvis, and as always, I'm your host. This is going to be a very special episode. It's a sequel to the last bonus episode that me and Roliver Queen Reviews did, where we broke down the DCEU, or at least Snyder's version of it, Man of Steel, BVS, and what was then the upcoming Snyder Cut. But now it's kind of come out already, and we've all had a chance to watch it multiple times even. So now we're really going to get into nitty gritty of it. I am joined by Roliver Queen Reviews and also AJ, our good friend, and we're just going to be doing a roundtable discussion, fully going in on spoilers. So if you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and do that before spending some time with this. But if you want to introduce yourselves, Ro.
Hey, what's going on, yo? It's your boy Roliver Queen. Good to be back, man. I lived through it, man. Like, I saw this shit come through. Like, it's here. It's a tangible thing, bro. Let's talk about it, man.
AJ.
Hey, this is AJ. Glad to be joining the channel, the show, whatever we're going to call this. Yeah, it's been a long journey to get this film out and get everything over with. So let's get into it.
Yes. All right. Great. So the way this is going to be paced out is that we're going to be starting with our general reviews, our general spoiler-free thoughts, just to get that out on the table. Lay all our cards out. That way we can just get into the rest without that weighing over us. Like, do we like it? Do we not like it? What our thoughts ultimately will be? Because, I guess we want to get into it without feeling like we have to pace ourselves. So, Ro?
All right, man. Listen, overall, I'm gonna put a disclaimer. Here. I did not watch the first Justice League. Like, the first time it came out, I think I watched like maybe half an hour of it. Then I fell asleep, and I never watched it again. Because when I woke up, the reviews were shit. But this is my first time. Well, this was my first time like watching it all the way through with everything included. And overall, I thought it was a solid movie. I was entertained. There was a lot of cool shit here. And just overall in general, man, I'm just glad that Snyder got to see his vision come through. Like, that's my main takeaway from it. But overall, I thought it was a solid movie, man. Like, nothing too amazing. Nothing like, oh my God, this is great. But it was solid, man. I had a great time. I watched it. I watched like 3 parts on Thursday, and I watched the last 2 parts on Friday. And yeah, overall solid, man. Like, would I like to see these characters? Would I like to see this team again? Sure, but I think at the end of the day, I'm ready. I feel like the universe has moved on already, so I think I'm ready to move on too. So. But I'm happy we got to see this, and I was thoroughly entertained.
All right, AJ?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Ro just said. It's a solid film. I got a few nitpicks here and there, things I didn't like. But, like I said, I'm probably the biggest Snyder fan out of the group, and it mainly lived up to, I think, what he promised, not necessarily what I wanted. But it's a good film. I'm glad he got to, well, I'll take that back. It's a mostly good film. I'm glad he got to complete his vision. I can kind of see where the studio was coming from. Hey, some stuff wasn't necessary. But overall, it's a solid flick. I definitely suggest watching it if you don't have anything going on for the day. If you do have something going on, try to break it up into as many parts as possible. But it was an enjoyable time. I'm so glad to see Henry Cavill's face looking normal. But other than that, yeah, man. I mean, we had some good introductions. Cyborg finally had a purpose. The Flash wasn't as bad as he wasn't, and it build on it. They want to continue with some of these stories, other than the ones we know who won't be busy. But yeah, it was a good time.
All right, awesome. I totally agree with like what you and Ro were saying. I thought it was an all right movie. It was decent. It wasn't great. It wasn't amazing, but it was really entertaining. I would definitely say it's like the worst of Snyder's DCU movies, because like I really love Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel is a masterpiece, and I also just have huge admiration for BVS, because both of those movies are so like intricate and thematically rich, you know, in terms of like themes and story. And they're like eminently watchable. Like I can rewatch them whenever because I'm always picking up new things, and I'm so immersed in that world because it begs to be immersed into. Well, this one's a little more cliche and at times really dull, and you kind of feel it because it is so long. It's very noticeable when it's cliche and dull. But in terms of like character work and spectacle, like for Cyborg and the Flash, it's great. It nails those, and that's really what keeps it afloat. And it's definitely better than the theatrical version. You know, overall, I think there are a few moments, like one or two, not a lot, like very few, where I do think it could have used some of the ideas from the actual version. But at most, it's a pretty decent kind of middle entry in the DCEU. And it's still a really good time. You know, if you get into it, if you have the time. Overall, I would give it like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going for 7.5 out of 10. But yeah, no higher than that. No higher than that. Yeah.
I split the difference. I can probably 7.5 feels like a good home plate for me. I can get to 8 if I'm being generous, just based off of some of the character work he did. But 7.5 feels good.
All right, awesome. So with that out of the way, and with no other like kind of bias or preconceptions over our head, let's get into the movie itself. Now, one of the best things about this movie, as I was watching it, that I noticed was how when it was first announced, it was announced as a 4-episode miniseries. And Snyder broke down what the episode parts would be. Parts 1 and 2 would be episode 1, and parts 3 and 4 would be episode 2. Part 5 would be its own episode, and then 6 and the epilogue would be its own episode as finale. And as I was watching this, I was keeping it in mind, and it really works. Like, it works as like a miniseries. You could cut those off and put the end credits titles and everything like that. You would have ups and downs and narrative hooks everywhere. So I thought that'd be a really great way to structure this review, so we're not like all chaotic about it. So parts 1 and 2, don't count it, Batman and the Age of Heroes. What do you guys think about it, Ro? Like this first hour.
The first hour I thought was pretty cool, just the way that they just like introduced the characters. And I think the first part with the Wonder Woman part where they were going into Mascaria and showing out how the Amazons were trying to get the Mother Box away from Steppenwolf. I thought that was pretty cool. A little long, but pretty cool. I do enjoy the Aquaman introduction. Yeah, overall, I thought 1 and 2 were pretty cool. Like my memory's a little foggy because I only watched this once. But again, I thought parts 1 and 2 were pretty cool. I feel like as we discuss more, some things will come to mind.
Right.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty solid. And I think that's probably, I think as I was watching this movie overall, like even though I didn't watch the first theatrical cut, like just seeing like all the extra, I don't know, some parts you could kind of tell because some of these parts were just kind of like, they expanded on the character history, but maybe it was a little too much.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, this is probably where this is probably where like the extra stuff was added in. But overall, parts 1 and 2 were pretty cool. Just the overall plot of the story made sense for me. It wasn't nothing that was too hard to get into. Like I understood it. But yeah, I fucked with parts 1 and 2.
All right, how about you, AJ?
That's probably where most of my problems with the movie lie in the beginning. Yeah. Now, the Wonder Woman, not the Wonder Woman, but the Amazon stuff, I mostly loved, even though it wasn't necessarily too different from the theatrical cut as far as how plot beats went out. It was the same there, but they added more stuff. The stuff in the temple and the Steppenwolf absolutely demolishing horses. That's something that's completely unnecessary, but I'm glad it was in the film. But the stuff with Aquaman, I'm sorry, it went on too long.
Yeah, definitely.
The singing once he went into the water, what was that about? I did not understand that. So bottom line, I enjoyed the stuff on Paradise Island. The Aquaman stuff, you could have trimmed a good bit of that and been okay.
All right. I love how you both brought up this one point because I'm going to go in on it really hard because most of my problems stem from the first hour too, like parts 1 and 2. As I was watching the movie, I was about to turn it off and like, this is a mistake. It's a mistake to watch this movie. I should just let it be some beautiful dream and not actually watch this movie now that it's out because it was so bad. Before I get into that, though, I want to touch on like the Amazon thing and just jump in if you disagree or agree.
Okay.
So I think that the slight stuff they added to the Amazon sort of battle scene was really necessary and really cool. Just the plan they had in mind to like trap Steppenwolf and the parademons and like self-destruct the entire Mother Box temple, like that's really cool. Like that's a really awesome little beat. Like it makes them look like they were forward thinking, like they were prepared, like they're smart and clever. Like that's great. That's really wonderful. Other than like the theatrical version, they just kind of run out and like they have no plan. So at least they had some sort of strategy there. And I thought that was really awesome. But other than that, the Amazon sequence is exactly the same. And one of the big things I noticed, one of the big complaints about the theatrical version is that it's just a lame game of hot potato.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what
it
this
still
ends
is. Yeah.
It still is. Like we don't need that much. And the thing is, right, that's where like the small little beats kind of accumulate. It's the same scene of hot potato, but now it's longer. It's one thing where like it's a criticism of the theatrical cut, but it's made just a little bit worse now that we have more of it. And that's what I think parts 1 and 2 really fail at, is that they're in excess. They're indulging, like Norwegian singing. Like apparently that's meant to be like they worship him a little bit. Like he has like these Greek chorus, like all that kind of stuff, but doesn't really add anything. It's just Snyder thinking that it looks and sounds cool. And that's really what parts 1 and 2 really fail at, because they feel like Snyder just doing shit because he thinks it looks and sounds cool and not being part of some sort of thematic or narrative purpose, which always fell at the forefront in BVS and MOS. It feels too much like Sucker Punch, you know? Have you guys seen Sucker Punch?
Yeah.
I never watched Sucker Punch.
Well, in Sucker Punch, like you would have like weirdly long scenes, like that would be really dull, but they would last like 3 minutes because Snyder wanted a song in the background, and the song was 3 minutes long, so the scene had to be that long.
Oh my god!
And like the entire movie is like that. And Sucker Punch doesn't have like a bad story. It has like a really cool kind of story to it, but it's like that. It's a victim of itself, and that's what the first hour kind of feels like, because it's so flimsy and superficial at points, and like it just made me feel like this is a bad movie. I thought, again, that's why I was gonna turn it off, because it felt so cheap, you know. And not only like cheap, like it looks cheap, but like cheap that like it's not really trying to be an actual substantive movie, and like that's disappointing. Oh, what do you guys think of the history lesson? Because that's really what I want to talk about.
You could go. AJ could go first.
Yeah, what do you guys think of the history lesson?
I just thought about something when you were bringing up the point about the Amazons.
Yeah, what?
Having the plan, and that brought me back to the history lesson, because Hippolyta was there, and Tiope was there back when Uxus first came. So they were there, and they saw the curtains. Right now, this is me just figuring out a flaw a week after I seen the film. They knew that the parademons could fly, and they knew that it took 3 Greek gods, entire armies of men, all the Amazons and all the Atlanteans, to wound Uxus. Why did they think that knocking the temple into the sea was going to do anything?
You're so right.
Other than buy him maybe 5 minutes worth of time.
You're so right. And that's the thing. The Amazon scene is a half-cooked scene, because they're like, we never see what they're. If Snyder had a plan for that scene, and we would have seen like what they were heading toward, what they were racing toward with another box, like it was some sort of bigger trap, that would have really upped the stakes a bit. But it's a half-baked scene, and you're so right, because like taking isolation, that's really cool. Like this booby trap, it shows like how determined they were, and like half the Amazons in the temple aren't even dead when they do it. Like they're still fighting,
right?
And so like that's really, really impressive. But yeah, you're right. Like when you take that into account, it's jack shit. It's still its own temple.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't have done much. But I mean, from the greater standpoint, just forgetting that nitpick that I just discovered, not the history lesson for the most part. I really liked. I liked seeing,
All right.
because well, for a couple reasons. One, it planted seeds of stuff that we could have seen if this universe was going to continue. Like the Atlantean and Amazons, how they fall out. The races of man, what happens there to where they no longer even acknowledge that these societies exist, and the Greek gods before Ares apparently kills most of them. But a couple things, were wasted. The Green Lantern that we got.
Oh my god.
I can't even think of his name right now.
It's like Florgle or something.
Yeah, it's
Wax or something like that.
It's a super deep cut. I can't.
It's a Silver Age nonsense thing, yeah.
Right. But I'm sorry, he went out too easily for a Green Lantern for me. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that a single Green Lantern should be able to take out Darkseid, but come on, you swatted away at some parademons, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, definitely, and that's. I honestly, do you have anything more to add before I jump in on this?
I was just gonna say, it was good to see the Greek see the gods, and just I guess I'm thinking of things that could be used to flesh out Diana's story in future outings. Just like I'm thinking that's probably where Zeus and Hippolyta first meet, stuff like that. But nothing major, just potential story ideas.
Right, definitely. Now, for me, the history lesson, I hate that scene. I think it's the worst scene in the entire movie. If I could get rid of any scene in the movie, it would be that scene, because it is just so bad. Because in like the theatrical cut, it's a pretty worthless scene, but at least it's short and it's out of the way quickly.
Right.
And at least it's Steppenwolf instead. So what you get with that scene in the theatrical cut is that it makes Steppenwolf look like a chump. But that's his whole character in both versions. He's kind of like a chump. He's kind of like put down upon. And at the very least, in the theatrical cut, where it's him instead of Darkseid, you get his motivation. You see it. It's a tangible thing in the movie that you can engage with. And it sets the foundation for like kind of like his motivations like really well, more so than his motivations in this movie, in this version are, which are very kind of loose and vague. But also, it's just it's a long scene that's so indulgent, and it doesn't really do anything for the movie. Like, it's supposed to give backstory and set up the stakes for Darkseid, but it doesn't really do that all that well. It fails at that because it's supposed to be like this exciting action set piece, but nothing happens other than like armies roaring and charging at each other. And that's all that happens. Like, yeah, we see like hundreds of thousands of like Atlantean men soldiers and Amazonian soldiers, right? But we don't really see like a giant battle happen, just people rushing at each other, Yeah. And so it loses all impact because it just feels like a lot of stuff. And the worst part about it is that it kind of amounts to making Darkseid look like a dumbass, Like, because okay, so it's funny to me that like 3 years ago, Snyder is like, well, that was originally meant to be Darkseid, and it's gonna be like 20 minutes long. And so when you hear that, it sounds like it's gonna be like an impressive 20-minute long sequence, like an actual like little mini movie in itself, and it's Darkseid. So instead of Steppenwolf being a chump, it's gonna be Darkseid, and something's gonna like happen. But no, it's literally just they just changed the CGI character model, and it just Darkseid doing all the stupid dumb stuff that Steppenwolf did in the theatrical cut, and it's like. It's not impressive. All he does is like roar and scream and growl and swing his axe, and then he gets like dragged away to safety. And it's like this isn't really doing all that much to set up Darkseid as a threat, And it's the first time we see him, and it's like he looks like a dumbass. He looks like a stupid barbarian. And it's I just hate that scene so much because it informs Darkseid throughout the movie, especially at the end, especially in Darkseid's last scene. It informs like his character, and it's so disappointing. And that's why I really don't like the first hour, mainly because of that, mainly because it's stuff like that. It's indulgent, and we get stuff that's added, but nothing that really means anything. Like the Norwegian woman singing doesn't mean anything. This whole 20-minute scene doesn't mean anything,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think even with him killing the Lantern, I don't know. I've seen as how Lanterns haven't really been established as
Yeah.
heavy hitters in this universe yet. Him killing the guy. I mean, I'm sorry, it doesn't have the effect that
Right.
it would if we knew, about. Hey, there's a whole core of these guys. They're basically intergalactic police slash military force. Him just killing a guy who's swinging around a glowy hard light hammer. Basically, it doesn't have the impact that it
Exactly.
could have.
Yeah, I felt like, at least for me, like that scene, the only real significance I see from it is like it's kind of like a nice way to kind of bring everything full circle, because you got the Atlanteans, you got the Amazons. They fought this huge war back in the day, and then now fast forward, you have their descendants, which is their kids. Just like they're also fighting kind of like for the same cause. So I thought that part was pretty cool. Again, I mean, maybe a little longer than it needs to be, but overall, like I do appreciate kind of just like that setup. Like maybe if you just, I don't know. I feel like I've seen movies where
I see what you mean.
I feel like we've seen movies before where this type of backstory, like it's very condensed, but you get the meat of it. Like it's not,
Right.
it's nothing dragged on too much. It's like, hey, this group fought with this group, and then this thing happened. This is where we are. I don't think we need to see the whole like battle sequence.
Right.
Maybe if it was like how do I say? Maybe if it was like an extended cut in a DVD, cool. You know what I'm saying? But as long as you just say, hey, this happened, you show maybe 5 minutes cap.
Yeah.
Then boom, at least we know. And then again, you can kind of do the whole full circle thing, because now you have Wonder Woman, and then you have Aquaman, and then we don't know shit about the Green Lanterns in this universe, but still, at least they're established, and as their descendants, they're fighting in the future with with the whole dark side thing. That would have worked a little bit better for me. But overall, just the idea of it, I did appreciate.
Yes.
Like it put more weight on what these guys were actually doing in the present time.
I totally agree. It's like you want to see that kind of cyclical thing going on, like that kind of rounded out like narrative. Like I love it when things come full circle like that too. I think it's amazing. I think there's built-in engagement. It's just that like it's so out of focus, and then you have like Diana's really bad narration, going over everything. Like she's so stilted. And it's like I rewatched it the after cut before I watched this as well, and I think the narration is a little bit better there because it's all condensed. Instead, you get like one line here, one sentence from her, and then like 3 minutes of nothing, and then another sentence. Like no, you didn't even this long, because now it feels awkward whenever she just reappears her voice.
Yeah, and I feel like if this was a comic book, if anything, this would be like one page, like maybe a double page spread. Where you just boom, boom, boom. We see everybody. Next page. Okay, let's get to the shits. You know what I'm saying?
See, that's why I think that this would have worked better as the original plan for HBO Max as a miniseries.
Right.
These long beats right like this, they're not gonna feel as, I guess, exhausting if you're not watching it in a 4-hour cut at one time. Like, hey, if I have parts 1 and 2, and I'm watching an hour and a half episode of a show. All right, fine. Hey, give me 15, maybe 20 minutes tops of that, and and leave me off with something, I guess, to chew on for an entire week to think about before seeing the next part.
I can understand. I totally agree. Like again, I'm adamant that this could have worked as like a weekly series. But on the other hand, I just think that scene is just generally uninteresting and unexciting. I think it's such a bland scene that it might have had the opposite effect. Like, or you have this episode come out, and you have a week until the second part comes out, and the second episode comes out, parts 3 and 4, and 3 and 4 are really good, but you've already kind of muddied the waters, tainted the waters a bit.
I see where you're coming from.
Because like my experience, and we'll get into it a little bit later when we get to the second episode, is that the further away we got from like the first hour and the history lesson scene, the less I remembered it, And the more I was like kind of like inundated with all this new, really awesome stuff. So like it seemed less important in a 4-hour long movie because you're always getting more. You're always getting hit with the next thing, which I thought was really good.
Right.
But overall, like it wasn't the best start. The first 2 parts.
No, that's no, that's fair. That's fair.
Anyone else like got something they want to sort of run into? Any kind of thing they want to bring up?
I'm just trying to remember if I had any issues from those first 2 parts.
Well, I have a little list. I have a list. When I had this list, I made when I first watched it, like at midnight. All right. So I'm gonna go through some of them. We already mentioned the Norwegian singing is dumb. Now, here's one thing that was really, really weird. Snyder, he loves The Fountainhead. He loves that book. He wanted to make a movie for it for years. And so I think in the Epilogue cut as well, he has a reference to it on a boat. And the reference is that the boat's named after something from the book, the Cortlandt. All right. But also, in like the first couple minutes, we get a shot of a newspaper on the ground, and it's like given like this really like long zoom in, and you think it's gonna be like something like world building, like
about the architect, right?
Yeah, about the architect, right?
I swear I thought he was setting up Jon Stewart there.
No, he might have been. He might have been because I think we'll get into it later. But he wanted to add Jon Stewart in. That was originally going to be the Ben Affleck lake house scene. We'll get into that later. And so yeah, you totally been mine. But without it, it just comes off as another Fountainhead reference. So it feels so divorced from the rest of the movie. And so yes, that was really weird. But the Diana and the kind of like Spider-Verse shot of her and the bomb, as she throws it into the air and she starts falling down. The Spider-Verse shot, right? Amazing. That's really great. That's so stylistically sort of grand. I really love that. Okay, so another thing, the boom tubes actually boom this time. Like you see, like it reverberate throughout the room. It has an environmental presence. I love that. Darkseid's a dumbass. Old God's bullshit. Diana's monologue terrible. I think that's all I have for like. Last thing. During the terrorist scene, she causes more damage than a bomb would have when she takes out the terrorists.
Yeah, where are you going with that? Tell me.
I mean, like, because like she takes out like 5 guys with like the submachine guns, like single-handedly,
right?
And then like for this one guy, she just like clasps her hands, her wrist gauntlets, and just like explodes everything. And like causes like huge property damage and collateral damage below, and I think it hits it hits a couple of like police cars and also any kind of random civilians down there. I feel like that's just excessive. It's another way the movie is really indulgent. Like it didn't need to do that, and it kind of counteracts what happens next in that scene. That whole kind of uplifting atmosphere where you have like
the little girl,
like he could have just taken this dude out, and you wouldn't have that tonal difference. It's another one of those things where Snyder is putting spectacle over like storytelling.
Yeah, the Civil War.
I don't know about more damage because I think if I remember correctly, they
it was gonna take four blocks, right? Yeah. But I feel like that's just a way to minimize the fact that she like destroyed a building.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. And I'm sorry, the guy's hat floating. Like you're not showing my man's body,
exactly,
but you're showing the hat floating down slowly. I'm sorry, I had to pause and laugh for a good 3 minutes. Like you know.
Yeah, he does that. I you knew the other guys were dead too. Like the guys are leaving like bloody splats on the walls.
Exactly.
So like it just feels like out of place.
It was her warehouse scene basically.
Yeah, exactly. It was not as good.
Yeah. Oh no.
Other than that one shot where she's falling to the ground, like that's beautiful. That's a beautiful shot. And it really makes use of the full frame IMAX thing he was going for a lot. But if that's it, and anyone has any other notes for parts 1 and 2, we can move on into parts 3 and 4, which I believe were titled "Beloved Mother, Beloved Son," and "Change Machine." So, anyone want to start us off, bro?
This is the part where we get introduced to Flash and Cyborg. I liked parts 3 and 4. I think the Flash introduction was actually pretty cool. If anything, this movie in general, or at least those parts, like gave me more of an appreciation for this new Flash, in a sense how it did for Lex Luthor in BVS. because again, like I was so used to the typical Barry Allen Flash. Like when I seen this dude like going inside, just looking for a regular job, with dogs, and the whole personality was kind of weird. I was like, yo, what is this? But when I watched that scene, and then when you kind of added on to the rest of the movie, like I don't know, like over time, I was like, yeah, I think I really do. I really can appreciate this Flash. Oh, the parts with Cyborg. I believe this is the part where we get introduced to him also too, right?
Yeah.
That part hit hard. Like I remember before watching the Snyder Cut, like people were like raving about like how much focus Cyborg was getting, and man, like those parts hit a lot. Those parts hit really well. So in terms of like getting introduced into both of those characters, yeah, I really do appreciate them. Let's see here. Oh yeah, also just Bruce and Diana just getting Barry into the mix as well. Like I remember seeing like the commercial where Bruce went up to Flash, and then he threw like the whole like Batarang thing. That was pretty cool, but just like actually seeing it in full was pretty awesome as well. But yeah, 3 and 4. I felt it. I'll just say this right now. I'm gonna say a lot of these parts like I messed with because again I didn't watch it as much as you guys did, and this is my first time. So I'm gonna have like kind of like the standard like, okay, I like this part, and then when you guys kind of deep dive into like the really nitty gritty, that's when I like interject even more. But again, I liked it.
Nah, that's cool. Yeah, it's where the movie really started to get its hooks into me.
Yes.
This is where Snyder had a lot of his best character work starting here at this point. I'm trying to think, do I want to get into Flash or Cyborg first? We'll do Flash because I want to go deep on Cyborg. So in the theatrical cut, I mean, neither of them were serviced well, but I remember coming away from the theatrical cut watching Ezra Miller's Flash, and I was like, man, he is a screw up. And don't get me wrong, some of these things are still there in the Snyder Cut, him tripping over his feet all the time, him being awkward. But I think just the added time fleshes these things out more, obviously. But like the first real use of his powers, the job interview scene.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like Flash more in this scene. I probably could have done, maybe not without the entire scene, but cut down and changed a few things. Hey, yeah, the truck driver dropped his burger. I don't need to keep seeing.
Yes, it was over like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't need to keep seeing you guys go back to that. We know distracted truck drivers happen fairly often. We can put 2 and 2 together there. I know I've seen a lot of people feel some kind of way about how he saves Iris, and I mean I'm of two minds with that. I think this is a Barry Allen who is first off, he's just coming into his powers. He's super socially awkward. I kind of wondered, was he on maybe the spectrum? Watching some of his stuff, like how he is when he interacts with Bruce the first time, because I think he doesn't really know how to interact with people. So when he's saving Iris and the whole moving her hair out of the way and the touching her gingerly to set her down, which, I mean, you can look at that 2 ways. One, he's super awkward and he's running into the girl he doesn't know it at the time, but who's going to be, a major figure in his life. But also, I think about it, okay, yeah, we're seeing him moving slow, but he's moving super fast. So if he touches her like we would touch a normal person, he'd probably crush her at that moment. But yeah, I've seen, like I said, a lot of, back and forth on the internet about, him touching the black woman's hair. I mean, it's a strange scene from that regard, but I think it has more to do with his awkwardness,
right,
more than anything else. I'm going to tell you the truth. The thing that not bothered me, but sticks out more than the Iris stuff is the focusing so long on the hot dog.
Right. I get that because it's a good joke. Like you think he's gonna like grab her first, and then he just grabs a hot dog.
Yeah, it was weird. It was
like
That's kind of sus.
it's a good payoff joke. But I think that you're right. The scene goes on for way too fucking long.
Yeah, it does.
Already. Like it loses impact because you're like you don't really notice it's a joke until later.
Absolutely. And yeah. Don't get me wrong. The payoff is there at the end.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got sesame seeds flying off the bun, and her flying out the car. I'm like, all right, you shave 30 seconds off the front end, 45 seconds off the back end, and it probably flows beautifully. But some stuff there just weirded me out. But man, let's get into Cyborg. This is the part where, and don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these cats on Twitter and stuff who's wants to burn down Warner Brothers with their torches and pitchforks and all that. But I'm like, how do you get rid of his story? Because so much, like, I mean, Fisher has said it, Snyder said it. Hey, he was the heart of the film, and you definitely see that here. And I know Fisher, Ray Fisher has had his dispute with the studio with Joss Whedon, Jeff Johns, producers, and all. I find myself wondering, like, why? Because Cyborg's story in this is so much of what Johns did with Cyborg in the New 52. Why is he getting rid of his own work? And it flows beautifully into the film. You see the relationship he has with his mother. Is I think is reminiscent of how a lot of boys, black men especially, are with their mothers when they have difficult relationships with the father, whether or not he's in the home or not. We see the stand. We see up in the stands after he scores a game-winning touchdown. He's happy for a second, sees his mother, then sees his father's seats empty. The whole perception changes for him. The car accident, like right before it hits, you just see how broken down he is inside. Then he turns to his mother, and then bam, the accident happens. She's taken from him forever at this point. He's basically a corpse. And his father and Cyborg can't see it at this time, but it's the ultimate act of love, really. I've lost your mother. You're dying right now. It's his way of saying, hey, I'm trying to make up for all the times I screwed up your entire life right now by saving him. And obviously Cyborg doesn't see it that way.
Yes, and Joe Morton sells the hell out of that fucking scene.
Yeah, the entire role with him trying to, I guess, to repair his relationship with Victor it was just really touching.
Yes, and it's literalized so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that now that AJ mentioned it, that is kind of odd. Now that you mention it, like, because again, like, I don't know what they took out, what they didn't take out. Like, again, This is just entirely new for me, but. That's crazy though. Just for them to, I don't know, just the idea of all of that being cut out is just so bizarre to me.
Because it's the central part of the movie. Everything kind of, the movie itself doesn't have like a really strong narrative. It doesn't have a strong plot, but emotionally, like, and I guess slightly thematically, everything kind of branches off from Cyborg. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, like, much like we talked about the VVS, like if there's a way to cut that into a Man of Steel 2, like it should be, honestly. If there's a way to cut Justice League, the Snyder Cut, into a Cyborg movie that just happens to have the Justice League in it, I mean,
wasn't if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Cyborg supposed to have a movie?
Yes, he was, absolutely. That's why I kind of wondered. Was this always the plan for Cyborg to be so heavily involved in this film? Or was it Snyder seeing, okay, hey, they didn't like the reception from my first two films. He saw the plan for this universe kind of falling apart. Did he say, hey, I'm going to do Cyborg justice here? I don't know. It gives you an interesting question.
I feel like most of it is just that everyone else has already been set up, that you would have to really kind of sell Cyborg because he's the only one that either isn't being saved or doesn't have like a specific role. Batman had one huge movie. Superman had two huge movies. Wonder Woman already had her huge movie already. You only have Cyborg and Flash to really develop, and the Flash, I don't think that he really interested Snyder as much. Character-wise, and then you have Cyborg, who because of the New 52 stuff, is connected to the mother boxes already. It's easy to kind of front load Cyborg into this. Everyone else doesn't really need that much development.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
But yeah, you're totally right. It's a powerful scene, and it's powerful themes, and it's the best part of the movie. And not only just this one chapter that it's in, but throughout the movie, now that it's introduced, it's really wonderful. And it's that moment. Like I know that part 3, Beloved Mother, Beloved Son, starts with like the Barry Allen stuff, and it's okay, it's fine. I enjoyed the jokey stuff, and I like that they cut down. Like some of the jokes are still really bad, and they're almost all from retained in the Whedon cut, but they trimmed them down a little bit, so I appreciate that. But once we head to Cyborg stuff, once we head into like the flashback like kind of section, and the movie becomes something different. It becomes almost to the level of Man of Steel, of something like that's so majestic and grand, but also really personal. Because Man of Steel is like a really epic kind of scope movie, but the core of it, though, the narrative is an intimate character story. And that's what like Beloved Mother, Beloved Son is. Like you're seeing like Cyborg learn how to like control like the internet and like all the kind of information systems that the globe has. But it's just him trying to become comfortable with his body. It's just him trying to learn how to be comfortable with himself again. And I love that balance. And it makes this movie like, okay, now I know what this movie's going for. After that, I just kind of enjoy the rest of the movie. Now like, okay, now I get that this movie actually is trying something really, really ambitious here, character-wise at least. But like, anyone else want to talk about either parts 3 or 4?
Actually, part 4 is probably one of my favorites because I love.
It's really good.
I love when teams come together. Like I love seeing it in comic books.
Yes. Before you get into it, I want to say, what you're about to talk about, and I'm gonna let you have that, but it's so much better than the Whedon version. It's so much fucking better. I wish I had seen this version originally because it's 99% the same, but the few changes actually just rearrange the context of it thematically, plot wise, story structure wise. It's so good. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, like I love the team coming together shit like that. I don't know. When I see that in comic books, I ain't gonna hold y'all, man. Like I scream, like I start hollering. And then when I was watching like just the team coming together and fighting Steppenwolf for the first time, I was like, yes, give me more of this. So that was a huge highlight for me, and I knew from then on, like the movie was kind of gonna skyrocket from here. And also too, it's just like, I don't know, like. I think it hit a little harder too because it's like some of these characters are kind of very different from their comic book versions. So the fact that they were able to mesh together and then kind of just like fight Steppenwolf for the first time and kind of learn about each other at the same time, that was really enjoyable. And I noticed the part where we first think it's Martha that's speaking to Lois, but it's Martian Manhunter. I really wish it was just Martha.
Right. Like
there's
no point to that fucking scene. Like, cause they don't even refer back to it. It's just a really awkward scene. Like we only see Martian Manhunter 2 times in this movie. That and later. And like when Martha leaves and they say goodbye and Lois closes the door, you cut right there. And it wouldn't matter to that later scene of Martian Manhunter. You wouldn't lose anything.
Yeah, because here's the weird part about that scene. It's because if they had cut out that part where they reveal it's Martian Manhunter, like it would have just flowed better later on when they saw Clark. But the fact that because I was thinking it's like okay, cool.
Yeah, because the only times you see like Martha is when she loses her home.
Yeah.
And then like when she's just back, having that just be Martha shows that like they're still in each other's lives. Like they're still each other's support system. Like Martha's lost their home. Of course she would go to Lois and like have a heart to heart. Yeah, like it just feels so isolated.
Yeah, it soured the because
the mood.
It
like
soured it.
Martha's saying some really hardcore shit, like they're worshiping and mourning his symbol, but they're not mourning my son. They don't know who he was. Like, and then like that's Martian Manhunter saying that. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it was just like, wait, yo, bro, like, you have a hard on for Superman or something, bro? Like, what's up with you?
that's too far. But it's a flakes the scene, and it's one of those things again where like Snyder is doing too much self-indulgent shit. Like he's not thinking about the story. He's thinking about what's cool. And like, isn't it cool if Martha's eyes became red and became Martian Manhunter? And then also became the general guy? And like, it's too much in one scene. Like maybe do it subtly, you know? Mm-hmm. But then you have like a whole scene where it goes from Martha to Martian Manhunter and then to the general guy. Like, it's too much for one scene.
It was too much, man. I think that part like really irked the fuck out of me when I saw it.
The thing is, you don't lose any of the coolness if you just keep Martian Manhunter as the little post-credit stinger.
Exactly, because it doesn't inform. The two scenes don't inform each other.
Not at all.
The only thing that you would know or get confirmed is that he's the general guy. But you could probably guess that from hearing his voice. Like, and maybe have him say a line, because that was from later, right? Have him say a line, like, yeah, we've met before, you know, or like something corny like that. Because that seems kind of corny anyway. And that way we can be like, oh, it was the guy who's voicing him maybe is also that same actor. You know, you don't have to have like the scene that ruins an emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about BBS and Man of Steel, because it leaves those emotional moments be. But then in BBS, like, you get emotional moments, and then like you just get a lot of weird universe building, Justice League teasing bullshit as well that just ruins things.
I'll say this, man. Somebody gotta make another cut on YouTube. They gotta cut that shit out. Like, cut out the Martian Manhunter part.
I don't worry. I'm on. I mean, we're gonna make, but all of us, we're gonna make the Man of Steel 2 cut of BBS, and we're gonna make the slightly better version of the Snyder Cut.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
Because it's so easy to do these things, you know. These could lift right out. But no, you were saying, do you have anything more to say about the fight, the tunnel fight, or?
Hey, listen, when Aquaman popped up, like at the end, I was just like, "Yo, okay, let's go." But okay, this movie is beginning. I love the team building stuff, and I love when the random character just comes out the cut and saves everybody. That shit right there, that's some good action comic booky shit for me, bro. Like, it doesn't take much to please me. I'll tell you that right now.
Right. All right. So I need to talk about the tunnel fight, because it's my favorite scene in the entire movie. Cyborg has the best like emotional character plot, but the tunnel fight is my favorite set piece sequence in the entire movie. It's 4 hours long, but I just love it so much because it means so much. And the tunnel fight in the original cut, it's 99% the same. All right. Mm-hmm. Just like one little two pickup shots here, and if we can get into them if you want, but they're overall pointless. The entire fight is basically the exact same way. It plays out from beat to beat the exact same way. But in this version, the Snyder Cut, it means a lot more in terms of like the emotional highs and lows of the team,
especially for Diana.
Exactly, but also for like Bruce and what he thinks the team is about.
Yeah,
because basic narrative structure, especially in like a team setting like this, you have the first mission fail like hard as fuck. That way you set the stakes for what they need to do and what they need to get better at. And this tunnel fight goes so fucking hard at it. And like it shows them as like just these incompetent, almost bumbling dickheads that they're all trying their best, but they're just getting outclassed, and they're saving people. But overall, it's just a mess. Like, everyone's doing their own thing, and they hammered home by saying like Diana and Batman like going, we're supposed to be a team, but everyone else is just kind of like doing their own random shit, and there's nothing cohesive about it. The team is chaos, you know. The team is just chaos. It's a mess, and I love that because like the theme and the score by Junkie XL, this hammers home like this is a low point. Like, they got out of this, but they got out of it barely. They barely saved these people, and they failed at like even mounting a successful defense, you know, like especially when they're like hanging on for dear life on the Nightcrawler as everything's flooding. It's like a huge low point. Like, this is so emotionally like immersive. I'm in this scene. I am feeling as like down in the dumps as they are. It's wonderful. It's so good. It's so impressive that you take a sequence like 10 to 15 minutes that's exactly the same, almost exactly the same, and yet the mood and atmosphere is completely different.
Yeah, tunnel scene. I agree with practically everything you just laid out on. It just shows you how slight tweaks can completely change something.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stuff, like I was going back to saying how it was the stuff between Steppenwolf and Diana, how like he's taunting, like they're kind of taunting each other back and forth, like Diana charges in, stabs a Paradigm and smirks at him. She's knocked his axe out of his hand, like, do you really want to do this? And Bull rushes him to the wall, and he's like, oh, blah, like I just killed, I can't remember the exact words, but insinuating that he killed all of the Amazons on Themyscira. And you can see it, she starts to lose her shit, really.
Or like you have Batman just barely hanging on, and you get the stakes, you get the drama, right? And it's laid out like immaculately, and I love that. I think that's also like the perfect place to like end. The shit! What happens next week? And it totally fucks, I think that's all I have to say about parts 2 or 3. I don't have any more notes on there. What I did love a lot, and it's a small thing, is that I loved how the parademons were in this version. Like in the Whedon cut, they mostly do some of the same things, but they're more like mindless minion henchmen drones. Like they're insects and like they're just flying around, which is very classic. I mean, Kirby did that too. They're basically like the Apocalypse counterparts to New Genesis's bugs. That whole society. They're mindless and they're ravenous and all that kind of stuff. It's classic and standard to do that. But there have been moments in comics where they're portrayed as more like troopers, and that's how they are in this. Like they take initiative. They show some parts of it, like moments of being ingenious and just thinking things out, problem solving. I love that.
Yeah, no, shout out to the one MVP of the Parademons. I guess we'll get into it.
We'll get to that.
Like he basically almost tears the whole thing down at the end of the movie, man.
Yeah, that Parademon should have been like Darkseid in disguise. It would have saved Darkseid's character, because Darkseid's a fucking moron in this movie. Promote that Parademon, all right? Yeah. Anyway, okay. So other than that, I guess we can move on to part 5, which is called "All the King's Horses," which is, I think, the big chunk of the movie. It's like almost an hour in itself. So
yeah,
want to head into this, Ro?
I'll let either one of you guys go for this one.
All right, AJ, you go. I know I'm dominating a lot.
Yeah, and now you're good. This is when we bring back, just to make sure, this is when they bring back Superman, right?
Yes, it's a Superman resurrection heist.
Yeah,
I love that.
One thing I like before they actually get into, bringing Superman back. And I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know if I like this change as much from the theatrical version. In this one, it seemed like she has some hesitancy, but she's much more willing to bring Superman back here. I know these two films don't have anything to do with each other, but after just seeing Wonder Woman 84, a couple months ago,
right?
It seems like you didn't learn your lesson as much as you thought, Diana.
Yeah, that's got to be too. Like,
yeah, but and the Flash, he's for it. Like Aquaman's like the only one who has some sense.
Oh my god!
Like, hey guys, this might not be the smartest thing to do, which just kind of struck me as a little funny.
Yes.
I love going back to team building. I love the graveyard sequence. Barry, with Barry being like, "Hey, do you think she'll go for younger guys?" It was like, "Hey, man, everybody's younger than her." Getting into the history between the Amazons and the Atlanteans with Diana and Arthur, that's great. Like I said, that's the type of stuff I want. If you're going to do HBO Max spin-offs of this universe, which I doubt they ever do, don't focus on the main team, man. Give me the stuff that happened thousands of years ago in the fallout from the history lesson that it seemed like none of us really cared for very much. But then, okay, so we get into the actual going to resurrect Superman with the mother box. The other, I like, they're clearing out the Star Labs research site around the Kryptonian ship, and Cyborg's Silas Stone, excuse me. You know, he's like, hey, something going. This can't be right. Something's going on. And while everybody else is evacuating, he's saying it's a false alarm, which he's right. And then it's at that moment, I guess, the connection between him and him and Cyborg, when he sees Cyborg with the team, I really like. It's subtle, like a lot of people might not even pick up on it, but it's like the acknowledgement between father and son, like, hey, this is what I envision for you, and the son is like kind of not necessarily forgiving his dad, but letting him know, hey, you're right, I can be a part of something greater. And I really liked. What else was it? And then, okay, I'll take it back. Arthur wasn't the only smart one who like, maybe we shouldn't do this. The Kryptonian ship, when you have a ship that's practically been destroyed, telling, hey guys, this might not be the best idea.
Right.
We've come across apocalyptic tech before. Let's not do this.
Right.
You probably should have listened. And then what else was it? What else was it? Yeah, the first nightmare sequence with Cyborg.
That was fine, but
yeah, I'm just trying to remember what all went down in that first one.
I know what went down. If you want me to give you a refresher,
yeah,
we see Wonder Woman's funeral and Apocalypse ships about to land on Themyscira, and then we see the Atlantean soldiers get like completely decimated by the Omega effect.
Yeah, okay. That's right.
And then I think those are the big two. Oh wait, we see Lois's death and Darkseid like coming out of Superman and putting his hand on the shoulder.
Putting the hand on the shoulder.
And then him over the crumbling Hall of Justice.
Yeah.
Superman.
Okay. So and then that's when Cyborg's like, hey, like, let's not do this. A lot of that scene same as the theatrical cut, except for what we obviously just talked about. I like how I'm not the biggest fan of that scene, and I wasn't in the theatrical cut either, but it makes more sense here. Is I guess what I'm trying to get to, and it also foreshadows how the Flash is going to use his powers towards the end of the film. We start seeing that connection to the Speed Force, so I really like that.
Yeah,
like when he taps into it, and all of a sudden the picture of Jor-El is coming. Not Jor-El, Pa Kent is coming out of the water. The mother box is going backwards.
Yes, it's more stylish and it's more visually impressive. And you're right, it does foreshadow like the entire like climax of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it has more purpose because in the theatrical cut, it's so bare bones and simple. Like, just touch the water of electricity.
Yeah.
And it's still the same. It's still like, this is a pretty lame way of bringing Superman back to life. Like, it's still really simple, but at least it has more going on in terms of ramifications.
Right. Like the theatrical cut, I feel like they were just trying to get to the Superman fights the team part as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong, I like it there. I also the fight. I mean, there are some cool things in the fight itself, like, and there are some things I don't agree with. I don't think Superman should be able to follow the Flash when he's tapped into the Speed Force that. Like, I understand Clark is fast, but not Speed Force Flash, bro. But him just like tossing Aquaman to the side, him basically recycling Cyborg, right? Like like any other tin can. I mean, that stuff it's great in pieces, right?
Right.
But I guess from story standpoint, it doesn't necessarily flow like, hey, Lois just is snapping him out of it, or at least show us something a little more. Like if you're alluding to Lois being pregnant at the time, like how Clark just in the beginning of the fight, Clark uses his X-ray vision, scans all of them.
Exactly.
Have him just scan Lois right quick. I think okay, you stop there.
I think you have a point, especially when you're talking about how they do it and like what happens in the fight scene. It's still really simple, and that's really the big failing of the movie as a whole. It's still really simple. It's a simple movie. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think we were talking about this before we started, kind of recording, but that's why I don't really remember much of it, because is nothing to really hang on to. You remember like the character beats, you remember like the big set pieces, but like the story, it's a big kind of muddled area because it's not that impressive, and it's not as impressive. It wasn't impressive in the theatrical cut either, and it's not made. Some of the big stuff isn't made so impressive here. But yeah, go on if you have anything more.
I mean that was pretty much it. You know, the fight, it worked a little bit better for me than in the theatrical cut because it just didn't seem like they were trying to rush it to the fight scene, I should say. But you know, it looks cool on viewing it, but you know, on subsequent viewings, you know, you start to break things down. Like, hey, you know, little things like, hey, scan Lois. Oh, she's pregnant. So hey, let's get out of here instead of just.
Or even stuff like, this is 4 hours. We could have given Superman an actual character scene.
Yeah.
You know, because he doesn't really get much to do. And it's more obvious here than in the theatrical cut because even though he's still very slight in the theatrical cut, he gets the first scene. He gets the first scene in the movie. Mm-hmm. And so his presence is like stamped like throughout the movie. Meanwhile, here it's 4 hours and he gets like the same amount of screen time, so it feels much smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you could have done more, I'm not saying spend a whole, 30 minutes at the farm, but more stuff like that, just little stuff with Clark, because that's what I think this large parts of this movie were missing especially once he was brought back. We're so focused on Superman, and I get it, right? You got Steppenwolf here. He's collecting mother boxes. You can destroy the Earth. They've discovered anti-life is here. I understand all of that. You need Superman, but give me bits of Clark, because I think that's what, I think Snyder gets the Clark aspect, even maybe so a little bit better than people give him credit for. Mm-hmm. And I just would have loved to see more of that, because the stuff on the farm, like I say, the farm scene stuff is mostly great. But
it's so slight, and it's very bare bones, even in this version.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Extend it out some for me.
Yeah. Hey, Rose. So, I think that.
Yeah, part 5 was, again, I thought it was solid. I think, if anything, part 5 did a great job of, again, kind of just like solidifying like this weird oddball team. Because again, for me, like, I don't know, just a lot of these characters aren't what I envisioned them to be. Mm-hmm. But I think this movie did a great job of solidifying that, especially, the scene with, Cyborg and Flash just like shooting the shit about Wonder Woman. Like, that part was funny to me. That was cool.
Yeah, it's great character stuff, man.
It's great character stuff. So again, it was like, okay, you know what? Like, it warms me up to these new versions of these characters. The Superman stuff, now that you mentioned it, I'm not gonna, that shit was kind of funny. I ain't gonna lie. Just like Superman turning his head. I was like, yo, bro, how are you able to do this? I know both of you guys have like super speed, but just like, I liked it, but it was funny at the same time. Like, it's just like, come on, bro. Like, are you serious? But just even the scene like before that, where the Flash had to do his thing, I thought that part was actually pretty damn cool, because again, it was just like Flash just like, I don't know, just using his powers to, I guess, to the max, for like a great cause. But overall, the Superman scene where he's back, I don't know, there was just something weird about like that whole thing. I don't know. It's just like, so you couldn't recognize your friends. You were beating the shit out of your friends, but you recognize Lois all of a sudden. I don't know. I just hate tropes like that.
It's so easy.
I don't like it, because it's like, I don't know, just something about those tropes, like something about that just like bothered me. It's like, dude, you had like a whole movie where you and Bruce were going back and forth. If anything, him and Lois should kind of have like that same kind of, I don't know, memory or emotional weight. But all of a sudden, it took Lois for you to remember. She was like, "No, bro." No.
Especially when
you're describing the theatrical cut, because he does remember Batman in that scene, and he gets pissed off.
Yeah,
so, dude, are you secretly like Jeff Johns, man? Pull off your mask.
Yeah.
Because that's literally Jeff Johns or Josh Whedon must have had the same exact thought, because that's why that's in the theatrical cut. He wakes up, he sees Batman, he's like, "You killed me, you son of a bitch," and he starts beating on him.
But he didn't kill him though.
See, yeah, even that doesn't work, because by the end of that movie, yeah, don't get me wrong, they beat each other's ass like 30 minutes prior to that in BVS, but by the end of that movie, they're boys. Bruce has saved your mom, y'all. So I mean,
yeah, I don't know, just that shit bothered me so much, man. Like,
yeah, the entire that is also a really weak part of the movie. And parts of that is because now I know I just went on to say, like, I think the tunnel fight is like really well implemented, and it's placed in a really great position.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, like, you want to see their low point, see where they're failing at, and what they need to improve on. And when we get to like all the King's horses and everything, the Superman, resurrection heist is it jumps over several key steps because it comes so suddenly. Like, naturally, you would see, in terms of like an actual story, you would see where they fail at, them trying to get better, but still not quite there. And then you would see Superman or whatever they need to, bring about to give them an extra boost to finally succeed as a team. In here, they fail. Oh, we got to bring back the heavy hitter. And like, no, it feels too sudden. It feels like they just ran out of ideas. They didn't want to try it, and Superman is helpful, but he's not really the reason why they win.
Yeah.
So like, you could have shown, if you wanted to like make that a big plot point, you could have shown them try again and be a better team, and then still fail, and then maybe miss Superman. And I know that might seem like a lot, but this is still like a 4-hour long fucking movie. So I think they could have had time. They could have had time to do that.
Like, it would have been better to make the Superman bring him back, make it work. Steppenwolf, at least in one of those fights, movie should have just demolished them. And like, okay, hey, we need some help, because the tunnel scene sequence, they're not the most well of a team, but they're giving Steppenwolf, and then you say we jump directly to bringing Clark back after that. I think one more sequence where he just goes to town on the team. If Steppenwolf did to them what he did to the Amazons in the beginning, I'd be like, all right, yeah, hey, y'all need some help. Because you look at it, even the final fight until Superman shows up. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to get too ahead. Y'all know. I'm starting to pick this apart a little more than I thought I would.
Oh, well, we'll get into that more in the final fight. But that's what I mean. I don't really like that because it feels too sudden, it feels too jarring, and it felt jarring in the theatrical cut. And it's one of those things that's just not made better. It's one of those things that was always like on a script level, on like a planning, the narrative level, just didn't flow. Either you bring back Superman like early on, or you bring him back later. This weird middle point just feels like we're kind of like rushing to get to it. Like Barry Allen's like, I guess we're all thinking the same thing. Like, what are you thinking? You just heard that the mother box can change phases. Like, you turn like water into ice into water. You can warp reality a little bit. And like, what are you thinking? Bring Superman back. That's not what. Why is your mind? Nothing that was said influences that. I forget what is the actual cut or this cut where they say like, what if the body never decayed? I think it was the other cut where they make a point of saying that Superman's body like doesn't decay or rot. And I feel like that set up Barry Allen.
They talked about that in the theatrical.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like that was at least the line that kind of set up the whole "let's bring Superman back to life" thing, more than Barry Allen just going, I guess it's what we're all thinking. Like, no, that's not natural. Right? Like, it's too much of a logical jump, which I really didn't like. And I like how fun the resurrection heist is. Like, they all have the little roles to play, like Cyborg's hacking and Barry Allen's in a costume, a disguise outfit. It's really fun, but it feels like a detour. And like this is a 4-line movie. There shouldn't be detours, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You had time to make a natural, flowing, progressing story, and it feels like we didn't need to go all this way to do this. And so I understand why that was cut. You know, at least I do like one thing. Or I do like one thing a lot, and that's when Batman is being like beat down by Superman, and he said like, "No, Clark, this world needs you. I like Ben Affleck, I think, sounds so like genuinely heartbroken, like he's about to cry, and like that just hit me, you know, like he sounds like so like disappointed and sad, and it just made that scene. It made that scene because like I know a lot of people have said this, but Batman in this movie like is really trying hard to be the emotional core that the team needs. And like he's trying to live up to Superman's example. He's trying to be more Boy Scouty. He's trying to be a little more like being like the team father, team leader, team dad that Justice League needs. And I think that really kind of makes the movie a lot. And even though he doesn't really have like an actual kind of character arc, it helps give him some nice development too. And so hearing him like be that like let down and like that like shock that Superman hasn't come back as all hunky dory, it hit hard. It hit me. But the rest of it's like lame, really lame.
Yeah, I think the best word to describe that, I like the word that you use a lot, janky.
Yeah, janky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely fits.
But I did like Vic's dad's plan and all that. Like I that got me. Like, what the fuck is he doing? He just killed himself for no fucking reason.
That definitely hit me.
And then when like Cyborg figured it out, like, oh, that guy was a genius. I had to cross it out of my notes. Like, oh, sorry for saying that was dumb. That was actually pretty smart. But in the theatrical cut, they figure out because it's on the news, and it adds like more worldliness to the movie. Like you get the idea that the world's reacting to what's happening. Meanwhile, in the Snyder Cut, it feels like this is like a random weekend for everyone else. Like no one gives a shit about what's going on, and so it feels really isolated. And like I think that's something that's been happening since Man of Steel in diminishing quantity. Like Man of Steel, you get like Superman and the world, and then you get Superman and some of the world, not as much, and then this you get Justice League and none of the world. It just feels like
honestly, no, it's Justice League with Star Labs and some cops.
Yeah.
That's
one cop.
Yeah,
one cop.
And see, that's not just in this scene. That's through most of the movie. Now that I think about it, you get the Star Labs guys at the tunnel scene, the Star Labs guys at the Resurrection, the cops at the Resurrection. I'm trying to think. Is that why they added the Russian family?
Yes, very likely, because they need to have some reaction to what's going on. And the Russian family isn't a bad idea, because I think one of the best parts of Man of Steel is the Daily Planet staff, which are basically the Russian family in that movie, especially in the final act. Like you see the final battle from their perspective and how they're caught up in it. And it's at least like one of the top 3 scenes in that movie. It feels empty. It feels empty, you know? It makes the movie feel weightless at moments when it should be more hard-hitting. Like we don't even see anyone react to Superman like kind of come back to life, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That should have been a big thing. Now that I think about it more, like, hey, stop all the presses, Daily Planet special edition kind of thing.
Yeah, it should have been like I'm one of those people who hates people taking out their phones to every stupid little thing. But I think this is one of the very few times where we could have used the scene where just a bunch of random people. Oh my God. People with the phones out, he's back. Like this felt too isolated, bro. Like it's almost like a comic book happening. Like it's like a comic book that's happening, but it's ignoring continuity in a sense.
Right.
That's how isolated it feels, and it's kind of uncomfortable in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's another reason why I rewatched it 3 times, but I keep forgetting it, and I never really want to watch it again because there's nothing that really draws me in the same way. Like in BVS and Man of Steel, you feel the world. Like you feel like a part of it. In this one, there's no way to feel a part of it. You're just watching a story. It's just something you're watching. It has that emotional resonance.
Yeah, because even in BVS, like you had the final battle with what's his name
Doomsday.
Doomsday, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. Like, that took place in the center of everything.
You see like news reporters, you see the reactions of like Lois, the Daily Planet, you see the president, cabinet, you see the generals, you see so much kind of perspective on it. Yeah, and then the montage at the end, you see the human's perspective, you see like the civilian perspective. Like and it hits you hard. You don't really get any of that.
Yeah, those shits were in public. Like they affected the public.
It just feels There's no impact.
The public should know, hey guys, these superheroes are together.
And they saved the world.
They saved the world. There is no reason why this fight, everything that's happening is so self-contained. Like, no, dude, the public needs to know, like, we're going to get into, parts 2 and 3 later on. But like, if this is the first movie and you are a team, the public needs to know. The public needs to be affected by it by some way, somehow. If Superman is back, I need to see people with cameras. I need to see people freaking out. But again, it's way too self-condensed for me.
It's the reverse problem of, and like you say, not to compare, but it's the reverse problem of like the MonsterVerse movies, right? Yeah. The MonsterVerse movies, we say, hey man, I don't care about the humans. I don't need to see their reactions to Godzilla or King Kong or whatever. It's the reverse. Here, you need it
to ground everything.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
But yeah, other than that, it's an okay part. The one thing I really don't like though, and that really sticks out to me, is again, Darkseid. He's a fucking moron. All right. Yeah. So we have this scene, right, and it's been a big point of contention. And Snyder has on his Vero commented some bullshit rationalization. I'm calling it bullshit. But okay, so we have Steppenwolf finding out that Anti-Life is on Earth, and he calls Darkseid, and Darkseid's like, "Oh, you found the missing planet." And I'm like, "What do you mean missing planet? What do you mean? You not know it was Earth? You were here. You almost got killed here. I mean, you knew that Anti-Life was here the last time you were here, and that's the only thing in your life that you want. You didn't make a note. You didn't write it down somewhere. Draw a circle on a map, and it's so stupid because it makes Darkseid look so fucking stupid."
Yeah. Excuse me. Like, first off, what was his reasoning? Because I haven't been on his Vero.
Snyder said like, "Oh, it's been 5,000 years, and he was too busy fighting other people for control of Apocalypse, and by the time he became undisputed ruler again, he had forgotten." Bullshit.
Yeah, okay. This just cemented this film as non-canon for me.
Yeah. It's like the only thing that gives his life meaning,
Yeah, absolutely.
And the people are like, he was young. He was too busy conquering. Why would he need to conquer? He already knows where this is. He would just stake it out. That's what makes the theatrical a little bit better in this one regard, because it's Steppenwolf,
and he's supposed to be an idiot.
Yeah, he's supposed to be an idiot, and he tried to fight for the planet, and he tried to conquer it for Darkseid, and he lost. And of course, Darkseid's gonna be pissed because this is where Anti-Life is, and so Darkseid's like out waiting it out, and he sends Steppenwolf again, like to try and redeem himself and try to conquer it again. And like that works. Darkseid's more like aloof. He's like more of a greater scope kind of villain. He's like just waiting to see how things play out, But here he's like more in the forefront. But everything we see about him makes him look like a dumbass.
Ooh, yeah, I hadn't heard that reasoning before. All right, Zach, I got to ding you a couple points on that one, bro.
The Lost Planet. How'd you lose a planet? How do you lose a planet?
See, I would have rather the excuse have been, like in everything else we've seen with the mother boxes, whether it be from comics, animated TV, blah blah blah. That's what you use to open the boom tubes, right? Boom tubes. Say, hey, I can't boom to Earth now. My mother boxes are on Earth because apparently all of Apocalypse only has 3 mother boxes. Yeah, I can't boom to the Earth anymore, and since Apocalypse is outside of the multiverse, yeah, I don't even know how to get there. That's a better reason than telling me he forgot.
Yeah, both versions, I think. The boom tubes have nothing to do with mother boxes.
They don't, exactly.
And and that's weird to me. Now, what I do like about the Snyder Cut, about the mother boxes, is that one, they're given more of a wacky bullshit sci-fi explanation. Like in the original theatrical cut, they're just terraforming devices. That's it. In this one, they're almost reality warping phase changers. Like, okay, that's cool. And Diana says there's a lot of them. This is just one of the ways they can be used. All right, Darkseid is just decided to use these three in the way that he wants. All right, like okay, so there's more, not just these three. Other than that, they're lame and like they don't really add anything to the movie. Like it's just terraforming plot number 63, you know. And the new gods are more than that. Darkseid is more than that. It just feels so disappointing to see them reduced to such a level where Darkseid is just a growling, axe swinging, punchy warlord barbarian, and the mother boxes are just terraforming devices.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. My fanboy head, I'm glad to finally see a version of Darkseid live action.
Yeah, he looks cool. His design's cool.
Yeah. But he probably shouldn't. If you were going to continue with Zack's vision, which, like I said, they're not. Don't throw him in the first Justice League movie. You can do an apocalyptic invasion. Just hold everybody back but Darkseid. Bring your Furies in. Bring in Calabac. Bring in Steppenwolf.
This should have been Calabac. All right, we'll get into that a little bit later. This
all right. I hate to do it again. I hate to do it again, but I'm gonna do it again. They should have just kind of just do the thing with Thanos, man. Tease him.
Yeah,
you know. Well, we're probably gonna get to that, but no, let's just get to part 6.
All right, yeah, let's get guys. But
yeah,
so we're going to part 6 and 7, or the epilogue, which are titled "Something Darker," which is a terrible title, and "A Father Twice Over." Mm-hmm. These are really good. I'm gonna start here. These are really good parts, except for epilogue, which is ruined like 2 scenes that don't even exist. But overall, 90% really good. Again, this is one of those things where like Something Darker, part 6 is like 99% the same, but the thing that's different, the context of what's different, make it so much more impactful and powerful as a visual and emotional experience. Like you have the team actually having a plan, them actually following through with that plan, the parademons being really fucking smart, and just the emotional weight of all of like their sort of talents and skills that come together in that cohesive whole, where like they're trading blows, they're like doing back-to-back kind of fighting. It's and just like trying to support each other and like, you know, watching each other's backs. It's so good. And it's
them rescuing Bruce.
Exactly. Like Bruce isn't just like, everyone stay back. If I don't live, you guys keep fighting. And, you know, this like Bruce is like literally like the canary. He can't fight, but he's like a distraction, and that's so cool. It's like Batman is like the main character, like not the main character movie. He's like the main instigator of this movie, but he's not like overtaking it in this final moments. He's like, I'll be the distraction. I'll draw the fire. You guys do the actual plan. You know, like that's so great. And it's like, again, everything that happens is like 99% the same, but just the getting more of the motivations and like the inner workings and like development of what they were going for with the characters. Yes, so much more. But Ro, you got anything to say?
Yeah. For me, this last part of the movie, we're gonna talk about that epilogue later. Oh yes, we are.
Fuck that.
We're gonna talk about that. But overall, I enjoyed it. This was like your typical cookie cutter end game part of the movie. Like I really didn't have too many complaints. Like when, when Bruce was driving around and Aquaman just popped up on the top of the Batmobile. That shit was hot, bro. And then there that little slow scene where all the Justice League was like together after that moment. That shit was cool, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like that was awesome. Overall, it was pretty cookie cutter to me.
Really?
It was cookie cutter to me. Superman piling him at the end.
Right.
But here's the cool part. Like. And here's what I think. So, at the end when, Darkseid and his crew was looking at the Justice League and their crew, bro, if that was the only time we saw Darkseid,
it would have been like, so cool.
I would have lost my fucking shit. I would have been like, yo.
This is what I mean. Where like the first time we see Darkseid, all he does is like scream, "Arr, arr, arr," and then get like chumped like a bitch, you know?
But exactly. But so here's exactly how I would do it. Like we see, this is the only time we see Darkseid, right? The only time when it's finally time to fight Darkseid, whether it's in part 2 or part 3, then you can show the big scene where it's the Amazon, the Amazons.
You save that for like a prologue scene or something else.
That would have been perfect. And that's exactly what I was going to do, the whole comparison to the Avengers thing, because like that would have been cool, because like, okay, they know each other exists. You guys see who each other, they see who, both sides see each other, whereas the Avengers, everything happens and then you see Thanos. But no, like that's what I like about this part, is like, yo, okay, bro, you see me, I see you. I'm like, I'm gonna kick your ass, right? All right, cool. I'll see you in 2 movies. Boom. Boom. But again, pretty cookie cutter. But again, I think that last part would have just hit better if we did not see that whole entire scene before then.
Or the middle scene.
That middle scene. But again, all of this stuff that happened at at that part, I expected. Like, it was nothing new to me, but that doesn't mean that I still was not enjoyed.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me, I was still not entertained. Yeah.
How about you, AJ?
So we're okay in fight. I love. I'll even say I love all of this except for the dark side part. What Ro was just bringing up. Seeing Bruce, I guess by this point, he's gotten his shit together with fighting parademons. He's able to take a few of them out. He's throwing the batarangs or bombs on them. It's Sunday morning cartoons at its finest right there. So, like I say, I love most of this final battle. You get the Justice League coming together, saving Bruce. Bruce is a little more effective against parademons this time around. It's just little things in the entire this final battle that they plucked from the theatrical version. You put back in here, it fleshes him out more. The Cyborg catching Aquaman. You don't have the whole stupid, ride ain't over yet, my man.
He does say my man.
Quips he does say my man.
But it's a little more subdued. It's not like in your face.
Okay. I knew the like I said, the ride ain't over yet. That stuff. Let's see what else. The slow-mo shot, which I know we've all trashed. Everybody's pretty much trashed Whedon over the last year, deservedly so. That he basically yanked straight out of Age of Ultron. That's beautiful. That's a splash page come to life. Like I say, that's where Snyder gets it. His visuals more than anything. Matter of fact, I need to send y'all a clip. Somebody posted it on I think Twitter, of that scene, but the old Justice League cartoons theme song playing over it. Oh my God, it's sex, basically.
All right.
The best part of all of this, okay, they, Superman shown up. He's just beating on Steppenwolf. Fine, all that's great. I'm glad to see Superman do some Superman stuff. The moment comes where Cyborg is trying to separate the 3 mother boxes, and Flash is having to charge up, and it's just drawing out, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, this thing might not go the way it had planned. You see the boom tube open up behind them, Darkseid, Granny Goodness, Desaad, everybody's looking menacing. Then the mother box, boom, blow. No, let's stop even before that. I don't want to get to the mother box blowing up yet. Shout out to Parademon number 1.
Right. Like I said, throughout this fight, and throughout the entire movie, the Parademons is like so much better. Like, they're troopers. They have like ingenuity to them. And before I get to that one Parademon, like even in the beginning of this fight, where like Batman is like kind of trapped in the dome where like all the kind of crazy shit's happening, the fight's happening, and he's like in his tank, and they're kind of getting in, and they come in like double file, like shooting. It feels like these are an actual threat, and they're threatened because they can think. And go on, we see it right here.
Like we said, the one Parademon, he basically takes Flash out of commission. I'm trying to remember what happened. Does Batman kill that parademon?
Yeah, it does.
I think so. Okay. So rest in peace to him. But yeah, and that gives me, not that I didn't like Flash in the movie, because you know he had good character stuff.
Yeah.
But this is the scene that really makes me excited to see
everyone loves
as we're going forward. You know, you got the guitar riff going on with him cutting into the Speed Force. The mother boxes have exploded, wiped out the entire team, and then he taps in, you know, he heals himself, and then he starts going through, he breaks space-time. You know, you saw teases of it earlier.
Yeah.
But now it's like he's fully realizing his powers. He's like, hey, I gotta break the one rule. And he rewinds time, and it was the best. I think he could have realized it.
It's a fantastic, perfect combination of score, acting, like shot composition. Like he's running, and every step is like reforging the road and the world around him. It's every perfect.
Step matters. Really.
Exactly. It's beautiful. It really is a beautiful scene, and it's so good.
And that was the standard. I think most set pieces just involving the Flash
should have
will be held to from now on, at least theatrically. You know, I'm not gonna say what they can accomplish on the CW, because obviously, you know, they don't have it. But even though HBO Max has floated them a few dollars, because that Superman show they doing.
It's kind of like how in Days of Future Past, when we first got like the first live action movie Quicksilver, and he has that like time in a bottle scene, and that's like a really great scene. It still holds up. It's a fun scene. And then like a couple months later, you got Age of Ultron, and like no cool scenes, man. And so I feel really bad for Flashpoint because like, are you gonna have to live up to this shit?
Like they have to. They have to, because if
there's a bar now. There's a bar.
Exactly. And see, not even if that's not there, because you know everybody talks about how this Barry Allen run, Ezra Miller runs, I should say. So I mean that because he's running that same way in the scene.
Because they reused that footage.
That I think that's the footage from where at the end of the theatrical cut.
It's a montage.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's doing their own thing, but it works so much better here.
One, because it's instead of like a normal kind of run, he's doing like I'm in pain. I'm like trudging through. Every step is like an ocean kind of thing. And so when you put that at the end of a theatrical kind of montage, it's like, what the fuck is he doing? But like when you put him like in a high intense situation where he's like overpowering time itself, and you have the score, you have the visuals, like, oh, now this fucking run makes sense. You know, it's like when you're trying to go against the current. You're not going to be walking the same way you walk. You're going to be like going for it with all your limbs. You know.
Yep.
And that's
let me interject here, man. Have y'all seen the memes about how somebody made a fake article about how Nav is going to be doing?
that was fake. That was a fake article?
He's going to be doing the music for the Flash movie. All I was just thinking about was just like, yo, what if in that scene probably would have been 10 times better if it was just Nav playing in the background, yo. But yeah, go ahead, man. Continue.
All right. But no, it's really good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, you know, they split the mother boxes. You get the final scene with Victor kind of scene. Well, no, that was before he breaks through, when he sees his mother and father again. I'm not broken and I'm not alone. Like that type of stuff. I'm gonna tell you the truth. If you take out the Cyborg stuff from this film, which is what the theatrical cut did, you have
no arc. You have no emotion. The movie has no emotional payoff.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. Like without, I can't get as high of a score as what I'm giving this film.
Exactly, because
without that stuff.
Because you have a bare bones story, and then you have Cyborg's development and growth.
Yes,
carrying everything. It's a flat line, and then you have like the actual kind of peaks coming from Cyborg alone.
Yep.
And it's great that he's in so much of it, because if he was in any less of it, the movie would be lesser for it.
Absolutely.
And I love the scene. And one thing that's weird about that kind of Mother Box Vision scenes is that the Mother Boxes themselves are shown as like frail old women, which is weird. And now, one of the rumored early drafts of part one of Justice League, the Snyder Cut, was that Darkseid's mother's soul was trapped in the three Mother Boxes, and they need to be like converged together to like bring her back to life. And I have a feeling that that's something that was held over in terms of visuals, at least.
Okay.
Because that's the only way I can think, like, why the fuck are they old women? Why are they like all the witch-looking women?
Yeah.
That makes no sense otherwise. It's not set up. There's no explanation for it. And like, I just feel like that was an idea. They had like concept art for the idea. And then when they changed the script, they're like, let's just keep that visual look. But yeah, other than that, it's really great scene because you get the completely like pits of emotion there. And then you get like the recapitulation, you get like that sweeping triumphantness right after like everyone's failed, it's a tricky thing. One after the other, it's like a switch, but it handles it beautifully. And so like, it's a really great triumphant place to end the movie. If you want to end it, it's one of the two places they could end the movie, and it could have been so good. One of two places they could have started. Superman like raises Batman up, and they all like happy and they're all friendly. Roll credits, perfect. But they don't do that. They don't. They press their luck.
Yeah, let me start off with the. Can I start off with part 6, man?
No,
with the epilogue.
No, I just one thing I want to mention that before the epilogue. It's Darkseid. Okay, one last Darkseid thing that also fucking ruins Darkseid. When he gets met by Steppenwolf's like dead body and head, his first thing is like, "Oh, ready the Armada. We go back to the old ways." And like, really? And what part of this wasn't the old ways? Because first off, in the history lesson, you're a roaring, axe-swinging dumbass, and Steppenwolf was an invading, roaring, axe-swinging dumbass. The old ways have failed twice. Are you not going to try anything different? I mean, because that's the thing. I hate that so much because, like, Darkseid, he isn't that kind of villain. He's a smarter villain. He has machinations. He's
a pull the strings behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Kind of guy.
And so like, I guess punching didn't work. Like, you know what will work? Punching. You could have just had like Desaad go like what he says. He says like, "Oh, I guess Steppenwolf failed. What's what we're gonna do?" And then I told you he would fail. And Darkseid's like, "You're right, Steppenwolf. I mean, you were right, Desaad." And he just kind of glowers a bit. And that could have been the end of the scene. Like he's thinking. Like, what's his next move? End. But he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go back to fighting and punching and laser guns." Like, oh fuck no, I don't want to see more of that. And that's what Snyder is setting up. So fuck that. I was talking about someone on like a Snyder fan Discord, and he was like, "Well, what would you want to happen? We need a kind of antagonist, like something the Justice League can fight." And I'm like, you could have a more complex, a more philosophical movie. Like you could have the fight that the Justice League needs to have be an emotional, philosophical one. Like you have like Glorious Godfrey and you have Desaad, who are villains that work on the human mind, like mentally. They exploit fears, neuroses, paranoia, doubt, all that kind of stuff. And they're not even like front villains. Like Glorious Godfrey, he's an evangelist preacher, and Desaad, he runs an amusement park. He runs a propaganda kind of network. You could have the Justice League trying to quell like human emotion. Like you have the Justifiers. Have the Justifiers be like the main villains because they're just normal human beings who are being influenced by like the fear and doubt and like the hatred that Apocalypse brings with it. And you can have them like try to handle that, and then you bring in Darkseid when they're at the lowest point, when humanity is already kind of lost.
Even if you want to do an invasion storyline, right? Darkseid has minions for that.
Yeah, he has the Furies. He has the Soldier Boys.
Right, the Fury, Soldier Boy. So like I say, his war dogs. Darkseid can be your brute force punch guy and all that. Yeah, he can do that. But I want to see that as his last option.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to see him leading off with that. He's too smart for that. Yeah. And first off, if Darkseid like get to the point where things are so bad Darkseid's not using his avatar anymore. He himself is having to show up. Don't like I said, he's not somebody I want, leading the charge with his armies.
Right.
He's got too many people that are capable of doing that.
Yeah, and I see so many comments like, "Well, Darkseid, he likes to do things hands on. He likes to be cruel, and he likes the bloodshed." Like, you do not know what the fuck Darkseid is, and that's why I'll say like Uxas, like that's not a real thing. Uxas is not a real thing.
He was basically a regular dude.
Yeah, no, but no. Uxas isn't a thing in general. It's a post Kirby retcon. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm a purist. I'll admit that. But like, again, you're right. Even if you take in like the Mark Evanier kind of Yuga Khan Uxas stuff, which I don't, but like, even if you take that into account, that's not even what Uxas was. He was just like the Prince of Apocalypse, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just Snyder's like rationalizations and like kind of like double thinking to make this make sense, to force it to make sense when it doesn't. But anyway, Ro, you wanted to really get into Epilogue.
Oh my God.
Take it away. I don't want to stifle your flame here.
Oh my God. All right, listen, man. Listen. I ain't gonna hold you.
Can we at least say the good thing about this epilogue first?
No. Listen. I ain't gonna hold you. Like, I thought the epilogue was pretty cool, but at the same time, I was just like, yo, bro, like, I know exactly what you're trying to do here.
Cool, but pointless, my man.
It's the fact that they added Jared Leto's Joker in there, they added Deathstroke. For me, this shit was purely fan service, bro. Like,
Absolutely.
if anything, this was just like a last ditch attempt to try to get people to rally behind strongly for restore the Snyderverse.
Which we'll get into that a little more in depth.
Yeah, but overall, just like for a regular, like, I don't know, for somebody who don't know any better, this shit's probably one of the greatest things on earth. But for me, I was just like, bro, I know exactly what you're doing here. This is bait. This right here is bait.
And the thing is, I was going to say with that epilogue, you have one thing inside of it that has a chance in hell of happening, and even then, it's not going to be connected to Snyder. Like WB clearly wants to do things with Deathstroke. They're putting him in too many things as of late, but it's not going to be connected to any of this, dog. Snyder, you had your run, whether you liked it or not, what he did, whether you liked it or not, it's over. The relationship is done. The bridges are burned. This wasn't necessary, man.
Yeah, it was. And also, you got to remember too, like, even I think it was the same week Snyder Cut came out, or even weeks after, all of a sudden we're hearing about what could have been with the Deathstroke movie. What could have been here. And all of a sudden, we know Jared Leto's not coming back for no damn Joker. They done moved on from that already.
Like, they still trying to talk Joaquin into coming in and doing more. Like, come on, man.
It's bait, and it's, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe I feel like maybe I should kind of stop what I'm saying because I don't want to jump ahead to the conversation. But
no problem.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this.
Yeah,
and yeah. Do your thing, bro. I'll let you segue into that.
All right, so just not to jump ahead, I do want to say about the epilogue. The majority of it is so good. It's pitch perfect because, like I said, we've all agreed that Cyborg is like the natural kind of character core, emotional core, thematic core. He's basically the main character of the entire movie, even though he's only in like 75% of it. And it's all about him. And it's not really all about him, but it's all about how the characters are kind of around him and how they sort of interact with like what's gone on through the lens of his own development. And it's so well done. It's so well executed, an idea. And by the end of it, where you get like kind of the final summation, the emotional kind of payoff for like Cyborg, where he's at in life and where he's at with like emotionally, you could have ended right there. You could have just cut off credits roll when he's like doing his final flight from the cemetery. But they don't. They don't. They don't. Okay, I know. Rose said his piece. Do you want to add anything, AJ?
My parts of the epilogue are probably going to focus more on. Well, I'll take that back. I get this is, and you can think it's bad or not, but this is more of a Snyder setting things up when Bruce has bought the farm back for Clark. Right. Well, Clark's mother, Martha, and he's thanking him, blah blah blah. He's telling him congratulations, and it really doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense if you don't notice that Lois is carrying the bassinet.
Yeah.
So, okay, Lois Lane being pregnant once again, telling me, hey, you could have scanned her during that fight, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Yeah. So now that was, a nice little scene, wink and a nod to the audience. We're probably never gonna get anything with that, but and then the cyborg stuff, like you say, the flying away from the cemetery. Those are the best parts of the epilogue.
Yeah.
The Barry and Henry Allen scene in jail, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Diana staring off into the sunset at what we presume is the mascara. I don't know. Maybe that will lead to something. If she doesn't go back to the island in her third film, I think that was pointless. And the Aquaman, the theme with that, I think Snyder was setting it up to where he and his father were estranged, so we know that really doesn't hold any weight after seeing that Aquaman. So, there were a couple pieces in that.
Little things.
Montage scene at work, but more of it than not, we already know has been discarded.
I think that internally most of those work for the movie.
Yeah, for the movie, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the rub here, is that there's so many things that work internally for this movie that it makes the last two scenes of the epilogue so fucking egregious. Because you get like emotional character payoffs, like plot payoffs, like thematic payoffs, and then it's just like 7 unending minutes of like Snyder going, here's some bullshit ideas, like, and you're just like you're every minute of that is just decreasing the impact of the movie as it goes along. Like, no, the movie, we did not need to see like another nightmare tease. We already had like 2 different nightmare teases in this movie. We didn't need a fucking third one. All right. We did not need that. And it's only, and that's the only like reshot scene. But it only exists for Snyder to spoil the plot of the last 2 movies. He planned, right? Like Joker's like, here's the plot of the movies you didn't see. Like, okay, so why do we need to have them anymore? Joker just spoiled the ending. All right. Like, oh, you let her die and you didn't sacrifice yourself. Batman, that wasn't like, so why do we need to see that? Now we know what's got to happen. All right. And it's just it's a long scene. It looks awkward. None of the actors were there on the same set. Or like together, so they edit them together. It looks really weird.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well, I know
because COVID protocols.
Ezra, Jared Leto weren't there, and the rest of them were like shooting in different parts.
He shot Leto. I know Ezra. They actually shot Ezra on the set of Fantastic Beasts. And they sent that over to Zach.
No way.
Yeah, he confirmed that in an interview. He had them take time out of shooting Fantastic Beasts to shoot the scene with the epilogue to send to Zach. Leto did end up being on a sound stage at first, but you can tell everybody around him has masks on and stuff, so that's why nobody else was near him. I think he said. I think before the studio relented and gave them the soundstage to use, like he was planning to shoot Affleck in his backyard. The epilogue was thrown together, bro. Like you could have kept it,
and it feels it, and it feels like it. It feels indulgent. It feels like a pointless tease, and it feels cheap in a real way. It feels cheap in a real way.
because you look at Cyborg's CGI in the epilogue compared to his CGI in the rest of the film.
It doesn't hold up.
Oh my God, it's bad. And then
it's just like, okay, it only exists just to be like, this is what Justice League 2 and 3 would have been about, but like it ruins the integrity of the movie, which is, and that's I hate it, because it's the reason why I don't like the Captain America sequels. The reason why I don't like Doctor Strange is the reason I don't like most of the MCU sequels in general, because they only exist to prop up other movies.
Yeah.
And that's what that feels like. Like, of course, there's always building to something. Like the Dark Side scene where he's like, let's ready Armada, we go the old ways. They're like, yeah, that's a tease, but it doesn't feel like a blatant one. It feels like, okay, we're not done with him yet. But then we have
the Dark Side thing is a genuine thing. It's a natural thing where
you would expect this is what the reaction would be.
Yeah, it wasn't something that was shot in the last couple of months to try to hype up your fan base.
Yeah, no,
way, you know.
Yeah, go on.
No, because for me, again, like I said, I'm always going to go back to the word bait, because I don't believe for a second that this was originally. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Just something about the way it was thrown together, and then then Snyder sent that tweet out to David Ayers saying, "I'm happy that our worlds get to mix together." I don't know. Just we already knew that there was not going to be a Justice League 2 and 3. So why would you even do this? Like, if you just had this again, if we knew Darkseid was coming, and then if you just ended the movie with Cyborg flying off, that alone would have been great. I'll say this. I even think ending the movie there would have been enough for people to say restore the Snyderverse.
Exactly.
But I think adding that extra part to it just put a lot more fuel to the fire that doesn't need to be there. We know the plans for that Batman movie where Deathstroke was in it was scrapped. We know Jared Leto is no longer a thing, in the universe. So why would you even do it? I get it. I get the whole fan service thing, but just because of what this movie was, just from an emotional standpoint, like, there was no need for it. So that's why, like, when you're watching it, if you're just watching it and you're like, I don't want, what's the correct term to use it? If you're just like watching it and you don't really know the substance behind it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is one of the greatest things ever. But when
if you haven't followed the story of what all's gone on behind the scenes,
yes, you would think this is, oh my gosh, yes.
Well, I would counter that because I watched this with my brother. Just for the second time, I watched it with my brother, and he was into the movie. He was enjoying it. And then this scene fucking lost him. Like, what the fuck is this even? What the fuck is going on? Why are all these characters here? Like, what does this even mean? Like, what are they even saying? Like, it's so jarring. It's out of place, and it's needless, and it has no weight. There's nothing for it in the rest of the movie. And like, I feel like again, that's what I mean about integrity. Like the Dark Side tease, that's fine. Even like the Legion of Doom thing they kept in, like, that's okay. It's stretching it. That's stretching it because it's setting up like a Batman movie that never happened. But Lex is like, you know what? I have plans of my own, and like, okay, he would have plans of his own. Superman's back to life. That makes sense to me. But it's that scene just kind of breaks the movie because you have like a perfect, well-rounded like narrative, like Man of Steel. The ending was perfect. Like, you have a small montage, and then Clark goes to work for Daily Planet, and it's where he feels at home. He's now part of society. He's now part of the world. He's part of the planet. Like, this literalism. BBS. You have the funeral, and you have like the world acknowledge Superman. You have the Superman's impact on the world mentally, emotionally. It's perfect. You see like the little sprinkles of dust kind of rise from Superman's grave. It's wonderful. Yeah, this one you have like Cyborg and everyone else like realizing something about themselves emotionally and mentally. Their character has grown a bit. Cyborg is now actualized. He's now accepted who he is mentally and like spiritually, and he flies off into the sky. And then we get more. And it's nonsense. It's nonsense characters talking about nonsense. And that's not even the last of it. We get another scene after this that is also really fucking bad. It just tells us shit we already know. That's it.
I mean, a lot of this felt like, middle finger to the studio.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Because, I mean, let's be clear. Like, Snyder, he might not be, he's not cool Warner Brothers anymore. But he probably has some vague idea of their plans. Because, I'm sorry, they're doing another Justice League. It's not going to be continuing this story or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But they're setting the seeds now. You can see some of these things with how they do Shazam, tying in Greek gods. Now Shazam 2 is going to have Greek gods, so that's a way to throw Diana in there. You look at what they're doing with with Black Adam. They're setting up the JSA. I can see a bunch of team up movies being thought about here from the studio. They just don't want it with Snyder's vision. I think that's part of the reason why they're embracing the multiverse so heavy now.
Which is dumb because you don't need to do that. You just make movies.
You really don't.
You don't need to say the word multiverse because it adds nothing to the fact that DC has always been standalone movies. Mm-hmm. So it's just returning to standalone movies. It doesn't mean anything,
But that's the thing. I'm not even sure they're fully going to return to standalone. I understand.
I know.
But like Matt Reeves, Batman.
Yeah, I mean,
but
yeah.
I think they're interconnected. See, everybody thinks that the interconnected universe wasn't going to continue after they moved away from Snyder. No, I think after you see what
it's going to work like comics do. It's going to work like comics do because
absolutely,
because comics, like, of course they're shared continuity, but like each series should and usually does contradict each other.
Its own story.
Yeah, focus on a story, and there are contradictions, but they're never really, or they shouldn't be if you have a good editor, heavy contradictions, and you won't. Right. You're gonna see things that they have to fudge to make the story work, but usually it's things that are just slight overlaps.
It's nothing world breaking.
Exactly, or it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
But
let's just talk about the Martian Mantra scene. Like, I know we talked about how this one could have stand on its own without the Martha scene before, but in context of like having an ending, this should have either been cut or been a post-credit scene.
I'll say.
Go ahead, Jay.
It should have been post-credit scene number one.
Yeah.
But I think that scene works better if you swap out Bruce for Clark, because he has a little bit more of a relationship with Lennox.
Oh my God, you're so fucking right. Oh my God,
because you can tie into that. If you go back to Man of Steel, the first time when he's in the interrogation room and he uses his X-ray vision and scans through and he sees the gum in the doctor's pocket, he would have seen that Lennox doesn't have human physiology. So you can tie those two together. Like, somebody said it online and it made me think, and it's like, yo, and he'll be like, or something like, you finally revealing yourself, blase.
Like, what's my place?
And, right. And Lennox is asking, like, why didn't you, talk to me about this or confront me, blase. And he was like, I was allowing you to reveal yourself in your own time.
Yeah, like I know what it's like to hide,
Right. I'll say, it works
that would have been so fucking good. And this scene was shot later, So they could have done it. They could have done it.
I kind of want to say, like, I don't know. I kind of want to challenge that a little bit because I do see why it was Bruce, though. I understand why, because, like, when Superman came back, well, I'm also going to tie this into, parts, 2 and 3. So I'm going to try not to jump ahead too much, because if you read parts 2 and 3, Lois is kind of helping Clark get his humanity back.
Just stupidest thing I ever fucking heard.
So then knowing that, and then knowing that, Clark, he did come back, but he's not really the same Clark. And at the same time, Batman is kind of the one that's kind of been leading the charge in Clark's absence. I can't understand why Martian Manhunter goes to him first. It's because, he has been holding shit down since Clark has been gone. But, Clark has just come back. Maybe he's not entirely in the right headspace or right mental space to, deal with, whatever it is that Martian Manhunter is telling him. So for me, it does make sense that he'd pop up there. Because imagine, Clark just came back. his memories are a little foggy, and then all of a sudden we get some Martian giving him some impending warning about whatever's to come. It's a little janky for me, so it does make sense why it's Batman instead of him.
Yeah, see, I hadn't even thought about it from that one.
I mean, that makes sense. I think that both make sense depending on how you're looking at it. You're thinking forward or you're thinking like standalone. I think both have their merits. But yeah, it definitely should have been a post-credit scene because it's another thing that just logs the movie down. You have a perfect kind of catharsis and then like more. And I guess we should just jump ahead into restore the Snyderverse. Like, do we want sequels to this? Like, in a perfect world, do we want sequels to this?
You want to go first, AJ?
Yeah, I know you're on about like Snyder and WB's relationship is wrong, but if it wasn't like tattered, if it was still a strong relationship, would you still want sequels to this?
If it wasn't, if the relationship wasn't tattered, I think only if you get somebody in who can, rein in Snyder's more indulgent, maybe, but like I was reading some of the Justice League 2 and 3 plans, and some of it's like, all right, man, I'm a defender of yours, and I don't know how some of this is gonna work.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Let's talk about all that right now, just because it's so similar together. Okay. So we're gonna talk about is anything specific you want to say about that?
Let me pull the stuff up.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna talk about that as well. Where kind of getting things ordered, because I remember most of that because a lot of it jumped out to me as completely dumb. All right.
Right.
Okay, so I wouldn't want a sequel to this or any sequel to this unless like Goyer came back, because I know a lot of people, especially a lot of Snyder fans, like really intense ones, they have this idea of Snyder as being like the creative force behind all of these things, but he's really not. I mean, the entire reason Man of Steel exists is because Snyder had his own pitch he wanted to do. He came up with this idea. He came up with like this take on it, and he created his pitch. He wrote this script. Man of Steel is like the most Goyer script that ever existed. All right, like it's so full of hallmarks. It's insane. But I think he had a great concept of Clark's character and of the arc that Clark would have to go through. And a lot of like what makes BVS work is because a lot of that is majority of that, the core of it is his ideas for Man of Steel 2 that were then like kind of like leached on and parasited and cannibalized by WB's like desire for a shared universe and Snyder's own kind of ideas for what he wanted to do. That made it kind of worse. And just like being as good as it is, it's not good story wise. It's good character wise. And a lot of that stuff is just bouncing off the foundations of the universe as it is, like atmospherically. Like okay, so we're hanging on a thread here. And then when you read his breakdowns of just like 2 and 3, it's just pure Snyder stuff, and it's ridiculous because it sidelines so many ideas. It sidelines so many themes. It really just forgets about so much of that BVS, Man of Steel, and even Justice League kind of like set up, and that like we're the foundation of these things. That it's jarring. It to me, like I'm not gonna knock Snyder's director. A lot of this movie is beautiful. A lot of this movie is like really impressive visually, but it feels like Snyder didn't really understand like the story or narrative or themes of Man of Steel or BBS at all. That's the impression I got. It's a lot of it is so embarrassing. Like we never get back to like Jor-El or Pa Kent's kind of like mentoring of Clark, or like what the world was trying to steer him toward, the kind of bridging both worlds together. You don't get like any payoff on like the codex or anything like that. All of it's sidelined for action and Batman, and it's like this is really lame. But go ahead, AJ, if you've gotten your thoughts in order.
Yeah, no, I've gotten some things, and I'll bounce around from stuff like how, and I don't remember if this was in his plans or if I just saw the interview, like Batman and Lois having a thing, and Lois's kid might actually is actually Batman's, but Lois's kid is Batman. He grows up to be the next Batman. Like some stuff like that that's what I mean when I say the only way I'd be open for more sequels is if somebody can rein in Snyder's more abstract ideas. You know, like Johns would have been a great partner, I think, if he hadn't have,
been such
a dick, basically. Like he could have. It's hard. You know what? I'm gonna say no. Actually,
I'm gonna say no too, just because in the reality of how it is, his fans, like his diehard fans, the ones that are all about Restored Snyderverse, they want Snyder's vision, his creative vision. And I'm like, I don't think he has one. I think he has an idea of what he wants to do, but I don't think it amounts to more than just action and fan service.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really a vision, because like, and here's the thing for me is that when Snyder was kind of like trying to feed like the flames for the Snyder Cut and getting it released, he released this shirt called All the Gods, and it has like his ideas. He called it the ideas for his Justice League trilogy, and it's like all this esoteric stuff. It has like Bible quotes and everything, and it's like Greek imagery and like esoteric imagery, and it's like it looks really, really cool and impressive. Like, oh man, I wonder what it means. It looks like some real intense philosophical shit was going down. And then we get the storyboard leaks and all that shit, and we can 1-to-1 decode the shirt now, and it's just the stupidest bullshit. It's soap opera bullshit, and it's like, oh, so it wasn't really anything cool at all. It was just like Days of Our Lives style dumbassery. Again, Snyder feeds into the idea, and his fans are only too happy to like provide it, and that he's like this like genius thematic auteur, but he's not really. He's really not. Bro, chime in if you have anything to say.
No, absolutely not. Like I've, honestly, when you sent me the link a couple days ago, like I didn't realize the shit was this long. Like I'm literally scrolling now. I did not know it was this long, and I read some of it, but just like overall, especially just like basing on honestly, I'm just going to base this off of the epilogue. I'm going to base off because like the universe has moved on from this.
Yeah.
Like so far, and even if you were to do, I don't know, even if you were to try to do this like as its own separate thing, I don't know. I don't think it would just make sense. Especially if you consider the interviews that's been coming out recently, WB supposedly has a plan to make all this stuff like linked together. I mean, not the Snyder stuff, but like just all the other stuff. So it would just be weird to just kind of have this going on as a vanity project, but several of these characters are kind of doing their own thing with whatever it is that they're doing with WB. It just wouldn't make sense. I'm not a fan of it. The universe, his vision has essentially collapsed. Way before the Snyder Cut that movie even became a thing. So It just wouldn't make sense to me. Like I said, it's for what we got here, that's cool. If he, and honestly, I'll say this. The fact that we have the outline for parts 2 and parts 3 or whatever, that would be okay. That's enough for me because at least we know what could have been. It beats just having the teaser and then we don't know and we kind of left to our own devices. No, bro, I'm looking at like a whole page of bullshit. We have pages of bullshit that could have been. God knows how many shows and movies that have gotten canceled and we don't know what could have been. We know what could have been. That is a blessing in itself. Let's move on. That's all I got to say.
So one thing I want to add on to that is that you were saying some really smart shit, bro, about like how we know. When this came out, and a lot of people were like kind of railing against the ideas, one thing that was about like, oh, these are old ideas from before BBS, and they would have changed. And I think, well, if they had changed, then why weren't they on the shirt? The shirt came out 4 years after BVS, and these are ideas from before even that. So they would have been on the fucking shirt. And Snyder is really proud of these really dumbass ideas, like Batman cucking Superman, and the Codex meaning nothing, and the Superman being like an all-seeing god who's too detached from humanity. But he's like, oh wait, no, I can raise Batman's son. I guess I can be Clark again. I'm human again. Like, fuck this. It's so dumb. It's dumb on every level. And
I'll
then
say this. Let me interject. Let me interject. Like, if they want to give Snyder like a mini series, like a comic book Elseworld series,
I was just gonna say, do it as a comic.
Do it as a comic, because at least then, you know,
we're not wasting everyone's time.
We're not wasting everybody's time.
At max, do an animated series just to squeeze a couple more HBO Max subscriptions out of his fan base, maybe. Yeah. But no more than that.
No more than that. Like,
or an animated series.
Yeah, because you can, I don't know if his fans would translate well to comic book sales, but even so, maybe it will. Who knows? But at least
because most of them don't read comics.
Exactly.
They don't, because they love his dark side.
Like every it's just one cat. I think his name is Josh or something. He's cool for the most part, but like every time he gets in an argument with folks about Snyder's characterizations, he pulls some out of context.
Exactly. I hate that so much.
Panel from years ago. I'm like, bro, just stop, man.
I like these movies, but like Snyder and his defenders, like really big Snyder heads, they have this tendency to not just let the movie speak for themselves. They have to have some sort of bullshit like link to the comics. It's superficial as hell. Like, no, the movies can speak for themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And like, even I'm a Kirby fourfold purist, you know. I love the original fourfold stuff. And so like on that level, I think Darkseid's really bad. But even without all that, the way Darkseid's portrayed in this movie is still pretty bad. Like on an impact level, on like just like a imposing kind of villain level, it's just not good in general.
And I'll also add this. I'll say this. I'll even throw this into the mix. If DC or WB does not want to put money towards an animated series or a comic, you could do a GoFundMe, my nigga. I'm pretty sure there's some people who would do a GoFundMe and, hey, I need this X amount of money. I'm pretty sure maybe that would be a whole thing with WB. Do a GoFundMe or for some sort of series. Put it out then. But is it something I want to see promoted by WB? Is it something I want to see promoted by HBO Max? No. Just let it die.
Yeah, and that's the thing about me. Is one thing I want to add is that we've seen it kind of ground swelling a bit in the last couple of days. And one thing that's really funny to me is that people are like, have this line about, let Snyder finish his creative vision. You know, he should have like the freedom to do what he wants. And the thing is, right, they want his freedom to do what he wants, but they don't really seem to give a shit about what WB has the freedom to decide. I mean, like, that's so hypocritical
with
to me.
Characters that they own, by the way.
Exactly. Like they can say, like, I can understand with the Snyder Cut, it was something that was done. It was completed, even if it wasn't like all stitched together. Everything was filmed. You know, there was a movie there. Mm-hmm. This is something that they want WB to like hunker down another $300,000 to $400,000 on, $100 million on, and no, they can say no. And it's not about artistic vision at this point. It's just about you wanting it. You wanting this movie.
I'm gonna add this in. I'm gonna add this very important tangent. I saw something yesterday. I don't know if it's true, but supposedly the numbers for this were slightly lower than Wonder Woman 1985.
Well,
1984.
Yeah, it's
because the Wonder Woman is an actual phenomenon. You know, Justice League is not.
What they said, because there's been a couple of websites who track the streaming service numbers for all of these guys. The like first day numbers, I think they said were like 20% lower, but because like Wonder Woman, I want to say it had 1.8. I think Snyder Cut had 1.4 million over like the first 72 hours. They said over the week-long period that the Snyder Cuts had about 15,000 more than Wonder Woman had over her first week, but that's not the best of things either way. Not enough for them to continue it, obviously.
Exactly, and that's the thing about me, and it'll tie into this as well. But there is this line among a lot of Snyder heads is that the movie being good as it is, which is a miracle, by the way, it's pretty decent overall. I think I said we said at the beginning, they have this idea that if this had been put out to movie theaters like 2 years ago, it would have been a box office smash. And no, it fucking wouldn't. The only reason we think it's this good is because the original version is really bad.
Yeah, and you had hindsight of, just how bad it was. Like I don't think it would have lost money like the first one would have, but profits would have been next to non-existent.
Yes, and it's like Man of Steel and Batman Superman, they weren't received well at all. This coming out the heels of those, it would not have gone over as well. I mean, the hype was not there, and even the hype that we've seen in hindsight, in retrospect, like if there's a better movie, if there's a better version movie out, I want to see it. That kind of thing wouldn't have existed.
Yeah,
and so they're living in a dreamland here, and it's really annoying when they have this kind of fan base that's going to take it to length. Like, have you heard about how they're review bombing like other movies?
Yeah.
And it's like, get over your fucking selves. It's not artistic integrity anymore. Artistic integrity and artistic vision isn't at stake. It's just you wanting something. You want it.
Yeah, like all of them, like they've got this weird hang up against James Gunn and the Suicide Squad now.
Yeah. One of my mutuals is going off about like, oh, they'll let James Gunn have artistic freedom but not Zack Snyder. But like Zack Snyder had artistic freedom in like the first two movies. Like BVS is like the pinnacle of artistic fucking freedom. Like there did shit happen in that movie that should not have happened.
BVS is the most Zack Snyder movie that I have seen probably since.
Yeah, I mean,
probably Dawn of the Dead, bro.
If James Gunn was getting like critical bombs and financial bombs, they wouldn't let him do that kind of shit with Suicide Squad. But he's not. All right, and that's the way the cookie crumbles.
I mentioned this before on the first episode. It goes back to rapport. Zack Snyder does not have that rapport with the general public the same as James Gunn. Zack Snyder does not have a Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
Zack Snyder does not have an Avengers Endgame. He does not have a Winter Soldier. He doesn't have like very high praised movies. You know what I'm saying?
He doesn't have something that captures general audience or like his own sensibilities. There's little to no overlap.
There's none. So again, you can't, because with James Gunn, yes, you say what you want, but no, James Gunn has significant weight behind him. There is a reason why when he got kicked out of when he got the boot from DC, they picked him right up
Disney immediately.
Yeah, there's a reason why when they give him the boot at Marvel, they picked him up right again from DC. There's a reason why. I can't say that they're going to do the same if the roles were reversed for Snyder. I can't say that.
And then Snyder's it wasn't as big of a deal when we lived in a world where movies didn't cost a gazillion dollars to make, right? Like Watchmen ended up in its theatrical run lost money, but there's been talk, from all the special editions and merchandising and blah blah blah. It's made a profit. We don't live in that world anymore. Now you're spending $250-300 million to make a movie, then you're spending another $200 million to market that movie. I'm sorry, these movies have to make 3 to 4 times their budget back to scrape breaking even.
Yep.
So when a movie like this, like I said, maybe they get into breaking even standpoint, maybe a couple $1 million worth of profit, but I'm sorry, it's not gonna be some smash hit that brings in the $2-3 billion numbers that you would really need to honestly justify this universe going forward.
Yeah,
his vision of this universe, anyway.
which again, very lame. Just more punchy. But yeah, so I guess we can just kind of move on to what are our thoughts on the future of DCEU? Because I know we've gotten a bunch of new kind of news going on. We have more Black Adam news. We have the Suicide Squad trailer jumping out. We have some more Flashpoint casting. Like, what do you guys think, bro?
The future of the DCU looks, I mean, it looks bright. I mean, I guess that's the right word to use it. Again, I haven't seen, Shazam.
You should. It's really good.
Yeah, I've been hearing good things about it, but it seems like, from my understanding, it just looks like they're doing what the Marvel comics are doing now, and I think that's what's working best for them is just self-contained stories, self-contained good fun stories, and if they can stay in that pocket, they'll be okay. Like I think me and you have talked enough about the Flash movie. I'm not confident in that movie. I think that's probably going to be. I don't if that movie can surprise me, then I'll let it surprise me. But out of the bunch, that's the one I'm not looking forward to at all. I believe it's a mistake. And I believe everything we've been seeing about that movie is the universe saying this movie should not happen. But as for everything else, I'm excited for the Suicide Squad trailer made me smile. Because it looks like a fun, just a good old time movie. Black Adam, I hope it's well. Aquaman 2, I hope it's well. What other news did we get recently? I think that's about Zatanna. I hope that's amazing. But yeah, it looks bright to me.
Yeah.
And I think the universe has been looking bright since we've moved on from the Snyder stuff. So that is saying a lot by itself.
Yeah.
That's not a diss to him, but I'm just saying things have been looking a little better. Sure, there've been some bumps in the road, but overall, the fact that we've moved on from that and we've just let these creators cook and do their own thing, it's been looking better, and I think it's going to be looking a lot better moving forward.
Definitely. AJ?
Yeah. I agree a lot with what Rose said. I do the Flash movie, I think, is their setup to. Because, like I said, I keep going back to it. Yeah, they're doing standalone movies now, but they're not abandoning a shared world. If you read the Ann Sarnoff interview that came out Monday after the Snyder Cut premiered and all of his fan base got upset, she basically laid it out like, hey, yeah, we're not moving on with Snyder's vision, but guys, we have cool stuff coming. We're gonna have these characters interacting with one another. So, I mean, unless you're just a slave to Snyder's vision and Snyder's vision alone, if you're a DC fan, I don't know how you cannot be excited for most of these projects. The Flash, I agree, I'm a little worried about because I think they're going to use that movie to wipe out most of the stuff that they didn't like to be in the studio. Like I said, they're bringing in their shared universe. They're bringing in a Michael Keaton back, supposedly, maybe, if nobody catches COVID. They're bringing a Supergirl into the universe now. We're getting a Ta-Nehisi Coates written Superman script. The Suicide Squad trailer looks really good. I can't believe we're seeing a live-action Starro on screen.
Yes, and it's funny because we have two different versions of Justice League movie, and none of them have Starro. But he's now in Suicide Squad.
Yes, exactly. The one place where he should have been a Justice League movie. But I digress. Black Adam, I'm really interested in, especially since, we got the confirmation that, hey, Dr. Fate is going to be in it, and they're setting up the JSA. I think that's a team who's been neglected in pop culture. They definitely deserve the spotlight. Like you say, Zatanna. What else? We know they're doing Batgirl on HBO Max. We know it's a lot of good things to be excited about. The Batman has finished shooting. We should be seeing another trailer for that probably in maybe a month or two. It's a lot of good things to look forward to, even on their TV stuff. Like I said, you can tell HBO Max is throwing some money at the CW because Superman and Lois looks surprisingly decent for that network. You know, me and Ro, you were talking on Twitter the other day about, hey, Journey's teased something about a Black Canary thing, and I've heard from a couple people in the scoop industry, so something's brewing there. I mean, you have something for every flavor of DC fan in the works. Like I said, I don't know how you can't be excited unless you're not really a DC fan and you're just a Snyder fan. And if that's the case, hey, I understand your grief. But you also have Snyder doing stuff on Netflix. He's setting up a whole cinematic universe over there with zombies. His going back to his roots, that's probably going to be pretty good. Like, let's give that a chance. I mean, there's something for everybody in the DC fandom coming. If you just be patient, you could just, stop attacking executives every time they send out a tweet about something completely unrelated to Zack Snyder or to his Justice League. Like, there's a lot of good things to look forward to, and I think we're going to be treated well.
Yeah, and I totally agree. With everything you said, basically, I think we were all kind of agreement. I think it's bright as well. I think the only thing that I'm not excited for is Flashpoint, because that feels too much like the old ways. You know, it feels too much like a step backward. While everything else is kind of finding its own niche, finding its own kind of groove, its own voice. Flashpoint looks like it doesn't know what it wants to be, and so it's trying to be everything. But you have like stuff like Black Adam, which I think is a bold move. The Rock has been pushing for it since like 2008, 2004. He's been attached to that role. He's been wanting to do this forever, since before he was even respected as an actor for like blockbusters. When he was just a newbie actor, he's always wanted to do this. So kudos to him. I can't wait to see it. I hope it's good. I hope it leads into Shazam 3. I think that would be really awesome to see. Like, that would be like the ultimate culmination of everything that The Rock has been kind of working toward. So I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for just the whatever's going on with the Suicide Squad. I think that it's gonna be an odd shift, but I'm excited to see what they do with Starro, what they do with the characters, and how that movie turns out. It looks really fun, but it could also be a huge mess. Who knows? But I'm glad it has the chance to be a huge mess. You know, I'm glad that they're letting it be ambitious like that. And also, you know, fingers crossed for like Wonder Woman 3. I know not a lot of people liked Wonder Woman 2, but it still had a lot going for it. It still had a lot of ambition, a lot of it tried things a lot. And I think a lot of things didn't work, but a lot of things also actually really hit. And I would love to see Patty Jenkins finish like her take on Wonder Woman in like a trilogy. I think that there's enough room for like a good solid finale to that series. And still a lot of goodwill to it, because not people's main problem with that are the story. Like, the story was too much. It was unfocused.
But that film had heart, man.
Exactly, it had a lot of people attached to that. People still like the character. They just didn't like the story that was around them. But yeah, good future, good bones. I'm excited. I'm excited for Shazam too. You know, I'm excited for whatever comes out. So so overall, what did you guys think of the Snyder Cut and everything that happened? Ro?
Overall, Snyder Cut, like I said, is decent. It's solid for me, man. Like I said, 7.5. Will I probably watch this again?
Yeah.
I think I will, but I will. Here's the thing. I broke it up anyways, so I watched like a couple parts on that Thursday and a couple parts that Friday. I think I'm gonna just do that again. But yeah, there's probably some things I missed, so I'll probably just go and just see what the newer experience is like. So I'll watch it again. Maybe my rating might improve, maybe it might decline. All right. But again, 7.5. I thought it was decent. I don't want to see any more. I'm happy Snyder got to get it out. Salute to this. I feel overall, if nothing else happens from this, I feel like that family has gotten peace. They've gotten
definitely.
They've gotten their resolve. They feel like they've been done justice. So that's it for me. I take a lot of stuff like that to heart. That stuff means a lot to me. So the fact that that man was able to see his vision come through, and overall a lot of positive reception, that's enough for me, man. And again, I'm happy for him. I wish him, his family, nothing but the best. And I know he's probably going to kill it with the Netflix deal and whatever else he has moving forward. But again, for me, solid movie. Let's move on.
Yeah, you AJ?
I agree with a lot of that. You know, it's a cool 7.5, 8 for me. You know, the character stuff is what really makes this movie sing at times for me. The cyborg stuff, especially, and some good team building stuff. But mainly, I'm happy just, you know, seeing his. I know it wasn't planned as a trilogy, but his trilogy is now completed. We've got a through line of all of his stories in this DC universe. You know, he's been working in this universe for over 10 years now. So it's good that he was able to complete what he started out with, complete his vision that he had to step away from. It didn't always go how he expected it to go, how the studio expected it to go, but I think they're both in better places now than what they were in 2017. You know, like Rose said, he's got his Netflix deal coming. We all just talked about how much the DC universe has brewing. I think both parties are in a good place, even if that place is not in with each other. You know, it's time to move on. I don't think any hatchets can ever be buried because it's, you know, too much bad blood. Even if you listen to interviews now, you know, they're saying that the studio threatened to take the Snyder Cut from them again. So, yeah, no, just everybody move on and do their thing. But I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, definitely. And as for me, like, I still think it's an okay movie. I'm going to go okay. It's 7 out of 10. I don't think I'll ever rewatch it. I just think that where BVS ends, the potential for what could have come after was just too great than what we actually got the Snyder Cut, you know? Like, the way that movie ends, it's so powerful moment. Like, I don't think a lot of that is done justice in the Justice League Snyder Cut. A lot of it's really, really good, but there's so much that I just don't really want to trudge through because it is such a large time investment. But I still had a great time watching it initially, that first time, seeing those things for like with fresh eyes, like just being in the moment for it. So good. And it's an experience that I'm going to treasure, even if I didn't really come out of the movie liking it as much as I hoped I would. And yeah, I'm glad that, you know, they got the chance to really kind of get closure on all this. It's something that makes that meaningful. And it's why now is really the time to just sort of close the book on it. But yeah, I think that's it for like our hopefully 2-hour long discussion, if I can edit it down.
Yeah, it's just like it's 2 hours and 49 minutes right now. Yeah.
All right, I'll probably cut a lot of that. But let's give our sign offs. Ro, tell us where they can find you.
You can find me at Roliver Queen _ on Twitter. You can find me at Roliver Queen Reviews on YouTube. Channel's just going through some weird phases right now, but eventually I'll be back. You can find me on Medium. Whenever I don't feel like putting out videos,
No problem.
I just put the video ideas as a blog post. So Roliver Queen Reviews.medium.com and Roliver Queen _ on Instagram as well. And yeah, and also we got something brewing between the three of us. When it's ready, when it's time for us to announce that, we will announce that.
How about you, AJ? Where they can find you?
They can find me at Mr. Mitchell _2 U. That is the letter U. You can find me there at Twitter. That's pretty much the only social I'm active on these days. Yeah, that's where you can find me there. I think we're going to be able to do something special with this podcast, guys. So I look forward to the future.
Yep.
No problem. All right. So I'll put all those links in the description below. I just want to say thank you so much out there for anyone who's listened to this entire thing. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you didn't hope we didn't step on your toes too much. We're just trying to like get our thoughts out, and I hope that it came across as coherent, and we had a lot of fun doing it, right?
Oh, definitely, man.
Awesome. All right, so thank you so much.
Oh,
Have a
yeah.
great
Always.
one. Awesome. Thanks, AJ. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great one. See you again next time, and yeah, have a good one.